Start YouTube right now.
Okay.
Hey, everybody on YouTube. Here we go with another fine edition of this grandiose show we call Spaced Out Radio. How you doing, my favorite people in the world? I apologize. Normally, I'm like, hi to everyone in the chat rooms, but I got a call from Chuck, one of my syndication guys at the radio station, and he's like, dude, I didn't get the show from last night, so I had to quickly download everything and make things happen here. So I'm a little behind, but that's okay. We got our guest, Pierre Sabak. Is it Sabak or Sabak, by the way?
Sabak.
Sabak, good. I got it right the first time. Look at that. Holy cow. Holy cow. And Pierre's going to be, like, absolutely wild tonight, people. It's going to be absolutely wild, and I'm very much looking forward to him. He's waking up early here in the United Kingdom to come and hang out with us and hang out with all of you, and I think we're in for a real treat tonight. Let's give a quick rundown of everybody who is in our chat room so far. Pyridoxine, good to see you in the gold medal position. Devin in silver, nice to see you. The Ronald Penton in third, everyone. There he is. Good to have you back, Ronald. Hey, Wreaking Havoc, how you doing, John? Mike L., thanks for coming on in. Hey, Hungry Burrito, thank you for joining us. Got to turn up my volume there a little bit. And hi, gorgeous Steph Dickey. Thank you for taking the time to join us. We love you here. Worsley, how you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Game Vet, looking large and in charge, my friend. The gorgeous and talented Kira, you are looking fantastic tonight. Mr. Man, Mister, good to have you back. Human Carl's here, everyone. Human Carl is here, not to be misconstrued with Alien Carl, but Human Carl is also a veteran, and we love our veterans around here, so thank you for your service, Human Carl. And continuing on, Vinster, good to have you here, my friend. Always a pleasure. Millennium, glad you're here. Stirs Nevitt, thank you for joining us. And as we continue on, Paul John Tavares, still no Stanley Cup for you, my friend. That's okay. The gorgeous and talented Jessica McCreary is here, everyone. Make sure you give her a wave. Persevere, good to see you. Jim Nicholas, welcome to the show. Scott Myers, thanks for joining us. Corey Foot, how's the Hallmark channel tonight? Mr. Apnea, good to see you awake. Middle Child, thanks for joining us. Hi, John Swan and Sir Wolf, good to see you. Project Blue Book and Aaron. Becky Belling, looking stunning in your new hoodie, I can tell you that. Thank you for that, for you and Worsley. Howard, nice to have you here. Lord of Land, Dead and Bub, and Rich Hilke. Good to see you guys here. Steve Karn, nice to have you here. The gorgeous and talented Anne Celine, everyone. She'll be signing autographs after the show. Make sure you hit her on up. Derek Edwards is here, everyone. Yes, Derek Edwards, same as Richard Elmore. There's Nate, Big Bad Nate Foot. Thanks for joining us, my friend. Bassmaster, good to have you here. Focus, my friend. Focus, good to have you back. And who else we got? The gorgeous and talented Jules is here, everyone. Make sure you give her a wave. She'll be signing autographs on the right as well tonight after the show. And we're all caught up for right now. Pierre Sabak is our talented guest tonight, and we're going to get going in just a couple of minutes here, as I'm just going to send this off to the radio station. 1 second. All right. And there we go. Good. And let's see here. Sovereign Farts, good to have you back. Welcome. Chris Jarvis, good to see you. Pierre, what time is it there? Is it 5 in the morning? 5:04 right now?
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I was up at 3 o'clock so I could get ready for the show. So, yeah, I'm all ready to go.
Oh, man. What the hell are you getting up so early? I'm
going to be pretty spaced out as well, I think, once I've finished the show today. So, really looking forward to speaking to you, and it's a great show, so thank you really much for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to chatting.
Oh, I can't wait, my friend. We're under a minute and a half here to go. A good way to support this show, everyone, is we have the Super Chat that is open. We have, give us a thumbs up or thumbs down during the show. And don't forget, if you're brand new, hit that subscribe button. You can do all of your shopping by going to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. And we're going to be making some changes to our website here pretty darn quick. And we're going to have a nice, lovely, sleek new website coming on up. And so that's news from today. Don't tell Captain Shirk, because I'll get a big what during the show. Yeah. So, anywho, who else we got here coming on in? Opa de Greco, good to have you here, Peace World. Nice to see you as well. NB, welcome to the show. And Mitz Meltil, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Michael Lastuka, thank you for joining us. Escape from Blue Jersey, welcome to the show. We're on in 20 seconds here, everyone. Buckle up. The Jim Christie is here as well, everyone. So we're going to have a great show. We're going to have a lot of fun with Pierre, and we're going to rock and roll tonight, everyone. Let's have a good time, and we are on in 5 seconds. Pierre, I'm going to get you to hold tight, because here we go. Of central British Columbia to you listening around the world. This, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. Remember, if you want to check out our archives, we have them free for you by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Pierre Sabak is an expert on ancient symbolism and etymology and is widely recognized as a leading academic in the fields of religion, mythology, mysticism, and the esoteric. New Ufology is a study of occult symbolism to deconstruct ufological tradition, a restricted teaching equated with the flying saucer and its occupants. A completely new field of research, the focus of New Ufology is Scaphology, or the study of angelic boats with religion and mythology. Pierre's work on the saucer cults details a secret alien code within language. We're going to learn all about this tonight. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. Pierre Sabak, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. How are you?
Hi, fine. Yes, thank you for inviting me on your channel. It's fantastic, so thank you.
And you're getting up early. For some reason, Corns, the booking guy, has had a real run on people from the United Kingdom. So I'm sorry to have to wake you up so early for this, man.
Yeah, it's 5 o'clock in the morning over here. So I was up at 3 o'clock to prepare for the radio show. So as I said, I'm going to be really spaced out by the time I finish this interview.
Oh, I don't blame you. I don't blame you, my friend. Let's go and get to know you for our listeners around North America who may not be familiar. How did you get into this field? What drew your attention to ufology?
Well, as a child, I saw a rocket within a field, and I went in and I told my grandma. I said, "There's a rocket in the field," and she said, "Yeah, sure, right." And it was interesting because when I was looking at the rocket, it took off and it went up on a right angle, and it flew over my head about the height of an aeroplane, but it was in the field for a length of time, and from thence onwards, I became interested or absolutely fascinated with the field of ufology. And that was really the start, because I really wanted to understand and to know about UFOs, because really before I started studying and looking at ancient UFOs, my understanding of ufology was that it was unknowable, that the UFO itself is unidentified and therefore cannot be classified. And this is actually untrue, because when I looked at ancient mythology, and this field I describe as new ufology, then I realized that the phenomenon itself was very well understood. It was extremely well deconstructed, and evidence of this is found within the ancient world. So that's really where my focus came from, was this experience as a young child. And so that was the beginning of my interest in the subject. And then really, then I moved on. I studied at university semiotics, and semiotics is really the deconstruction of the sign. And this was related to my fine art course, so I studied fine art. But semiotics in the 1990s was very fashionable, as with postmodernism. So we were studying the signs and symbols found within the text, and deconstruction in particular. And this, if you like, gave me the groundwork for beginning to analyze symbolism within the ancient mythological and textual records. So that's a little bit of background. This is a basis in terms of my academic background in terms of how I became interested within ufology.
Pierre,
So yeah,
as you started to go down this road from a youngster, it was all
yeah.
about spaceships. At what point did you start to kind of look into the behind the scenes about why it's happening? Where are these creatures, and how is this going on?
Right, okay, I think that's a very interesting question. I know certainly within more contemporary ufology, shall we say that there's been a switch from, let's say, the physical nuts and bolts to the more interdimensional and spiritual aspects. And again, this interconnects within the ancient mystery religions with the Jinn. So again, I think that there's been an interest or a resurgence within the interest of the Jinn, and we can talk about that later. But I think certainly from my own research into Scaphology, which is the ancient deconstruction of boats and ships within the ancient mystery religions. This was really the beginning for me, because what I found from looking at the Scaphological tradition is that the angel is identified with the ship, and that this goes back to an occult tradition. So in many respects, whether we're looking at science fiction, whether we're looking at the deconstruction of occult symbolism, primarily the angel in the ancient world is identified with a flying vessel or a flying ship. And again, these flying ships and vessels are equated astrotheologically with different star systems. And so this was really the basis and the underpinning of my research into the angelic tradition. And I really want to try and go into the scaphological and angelic tradition, because the scaphological, classical, and angelic tradition are all interrelated. They are all one and the same field. So, for example, when we look at scaphology, the word scaphology comes from the etymology of scaph, which is a small vessel, which is typically a type of smaller vessel from a large vessel. But the word in scaph comes from scapto, which is to dig out. So this is a type of small hollow vessel. And this is very pertinent when we're actually looking at the ufological tradition, which obviously deals with flying craft. Typically, these are smaller craft, which are equated with larger vessels. So this is scaphology, which is a new academic field. And it's a new academic field because before, basically, before, sorry, I've lost the train of my thought there. But essentially, when we look at the angels, just one moment. So, right, yes. So when we look at scaphology, just one moment. Sorry about that. I was just.
That's okay.
Okay, I'll try. I'll try again. Yes.
Scaphology. When we look
Scaphology. That's right. Sorry. Yes. So scaphology is the study of these angelic boats and angelic vessels. So the origins of scaphology is really the classics, and the etymology of classics comes from the classis, which is a naval fleet. Now, the naval fleet appertains to the scaphological tradition, which is related to this classified tradition. And this is very important because the classical tradition appertains to an angel. So within the ancient languages, Malak, an angel, is a synonym of Malak, a sailor. So the angels themselves were viewed as sailors. Now we can go into the, if you like, the rabbinical tradition, because the rabbinical tradition traces the etymology of an angel from a different root, but this is all interconnected because it's interconnected within the symbolism of angelic sailors. So, for example, when we look at the rabbinical root of the word malach and angel, rabbinical scholars trace it from the verbal root amar, which is to command or to speak, and therefore the angel, traditionally malach and angel, is connected to a messenger. Again, we see that there's a connection between alaka, which is to go on a mission, lik, which is a follower, because the angels are followers, and they are a type of an emissary. So we see that there's a connection, if you like, between a mission or a missionary and an emissary, which is connected to an angelic tradition. This angelic tradition is a classical tradition because it relates to classis, which is the naval fleet. Again, it relates to the bloodline of the king, because there's a relationship between malach and angel, malach a sailor, melech, which is a king. In English, we would translate this connection as kingship. Kingship appertains to the angelic lineage of the king, which goes back into the classical world and is classified. And so we see, therefore, that there is, if you like, that this tradition with the way in which the angel is represented as a sailor, and now this is identified with lordship. And so, yeah, so when we look at the wording of Amar, which is the verbal root in which the word angel comes from, according to rabbinical sources, we see that the etymology is connected to Emir, which is a prince, but also Amara, which is a naval fleet. And so Amara can be translated as a naval fleet or a host. And again, this is identified with lordship, which is interconnected with this angelic lineage, which goes all the way back in the ancient world to these demigods, which are identified with heaven. So that's essentially a brief deconstruction of the scaphological tradition and the way in which the scaphological tradition interrelates with the classical tradition. So that's a brief basis, but we can also see that within the classical tradition that there is the compartmentalization of knowledge. And this is important when we're reviewing the occult tradition, because the occult tradition is split into two areas. And this is the humanist tradition, which is identified with human angels, which are known as the cherubim. And then we have the non-human tradition, which is identified with aliens, which are correlated with non-human angels, which are the seraphim, which translates as a serpent. So originally, the angels were identified with human and non-humanoid beings. Typically, these entities would appear together within the symbolism as well. And again, they would, so for example, within the ancient world, the representation of a flying saucer would be denoted as an Ophanim wheel. And you would have the host, which are these this type of army or angels, which are equated with crew members. They would appear together, so you would have this non-human element and this human element. Now, this forced partition within the priesthood, in which there were humanist and non-humanist elements within the priesthood, which is essentially the Pythagorean Euclidean tradition. I'll go into that a little bit later, but that's just essentially, if you like, the basics of the angelic tradition and how this interconnects with lordship. So, but this is very important actually when we're dealing with deities as well. So, for example, within the biblical tradition, you have the angel, malach an angel, which is connected to malach a sailor. Now, within the ancient mystery religions, they are typically represented as enotheistic, which means that certainly within the Bible, Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of the host, is the Lord of the angelic retinue, and this retinue is deemed as a type of crew member of a vessel. So when we begin to break down the word Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of the host, in this respect, Sava, which is an army, we see that there's a relationship between Sabaoth host and Sevet, which is a crew member of a naval vessel, and Teva, which is an ark. So Yahweh Sabaoth is the Lord of the naval host, and therefore his angels, malach an angel, which is equated with malach a sailor, or even if we went back into the verbal root of Amar, which is to command or to speak, which equates to these angelic messengers, again is equated with Amara, which is a type of fleet. And so the angels are identified with these with the Lord of the Host. The Lord of the Host in this respect is a synonym used to represent the Elohim, the High Ones. The High Ones are these angelic sailors who are identified with, well, essentially they're identified with Sirius, but we can go into that a little bit later on. So
just
I'll let you interject.
so many questions, Pierre, so many questions, because it really, the way you're kind of painting this, and please forgive me if I'm wrong, okay,
Sure.
because you and I look at ufology in completely different terms, and I'm absolutely fascinated by this. But do you believe, or is what you're saying is you believe that any of these beings that are coming down, whether it's the Greys, the Mantids, the Reptilians, are all of some sort of religious background or religious deity?
Well, yes. Again, the word mantis means prophet. So, yeah, I mean, there's the occult symbolism. So there is an occult aspect to the symbolism, and I think that this is important because this idea that the alien is a cultural construct, which is something which is new, and again, this idea that abduction is new, is not true. It goes back into the scaphological tradition. It goes back into the symbolism appertaining to the angels. And again, when we begin to look at the deconstruction of the human and the non-human angels, now this interconnects with the host, we see that there's a relationship between seraph, which are the seraphim, which is a non-human angel, specifically a serpent. But seraph is related to sapan, which is a sailor. And again, there's this morphological interconnection between the p and the f sound. So sapan is related to safina, which is a ship. So traditionally, the seraphim, which are these non-human angels, which are the highest order of angels within angelology, they are depicted as, again, a crew member of a naval vessel. They're depicted as sailors, and this is consistent with the word malak, an angel, malak, a sailor. But again, when we look at the cherubim also, the cherubim are identified with carib, which is a small vessel or a rowing boat, but in this context would be a smaller vessel or a ship, which is identified with a larger vessel. So we're seeing that the angels traditionally are very similar to what we would define as aliens within the modern context, even in terms of how we define humanoid and non-humanoid angels. And even now, let's say these two groups of angels often appear within the modern record, but their appearance dates back into the ancient record. And this is something which is very important to understand. The basis of ufology is really the basis of the mystery religions. And again, we're seeing that there is this correlation between religion and religare, which is to moor a vessel. And therefore, the mystery religions are centered upon the worship of these vessels. And again, it's encoded within the English word worship, as in ship. But this is a polyglottal symbol. This is a symbol which is translated into multiple languages. So therefore, we see that there's a relationship between Sabaoth in the Semitic and Sabah, which is to praise or to glorify, because they were praising or glorifying these angelic vessels. In English, we would say worship. In the same way that the church, we have a nave. The nave of the church is interconnected with navis, which is a ship or a boat. And so the parameters of the church or the temple were laid out according to a boat. Again, we would find the same wordplay within the Greek. This is all very polyglottal. So therefore, naos, which is a temple sanctuary, is equated with nos, which is a boat. And so the parameters of the temple typically signified a boat. And one of the reasons why it signified a boat was that it's interconnected to these vessels. And traditionally, these vessels were buried at temple sites. And so therefore, religiously, the temple was a sanctuary in which some of these ancient artifacts were buried underneath the temple sites. So that's, if you like, how this interconnects with the modern study of ufology. And again, even when we look at the tradition of the, for example, the shield bearer within, let's say, Norse mythology and the Roman traditions of the anciel, which fell from heaven, you have these shield bearers, which are often equated with shield maidens. Now, the shield is used to denote a flying saucer. And so we see that there's this interconnection between opal on a shield and pleon in the Greek, which is a boat. And so one of the ways of representing an angelic boat or a vessel is through the symbolism of the shield. And this is why the shield is often used to denote an offspring of a boat, as we said, lordship, because the shield is used to denote these flying vessels or boats. And what's actually very interesting is that within the ancient world, the shield was traditionally used as a projectile. And so what the ancients would do is that they would take a shield and they would fill up the shield with hot sand and sometimes with excrement, or sometimes with hot oil as well, and they would use the shield as a projectile. So they would put a shield into a catapult, and they would use it as a type of missile. And so the shields were if you like, the flying saucer was represented as a flying shield, which was a type of missile. Hence, within the ancient languages, there is this interconnection between an emissary and missile, because in the ancient languages, a missile was a type of flying shield which was connected to stratos, which is the host, which is the Greek word for a host. But again, when we're looking at the ancient etymologies, we see that there's a connection between opolon, a shield, hoplite, a soldier, pleon, which is a boat. Now, the soldiers I mentioned before is interconnected with the angelic sailor, Malak an angel or Malak a sailor. But within the Greek traditions, traditionally, opolite, a soldier, would be connected with the seraphic tradition, which is Erpeton, a reptile, and Arpue, which is an abductor. And I think that this is very important, because when we're looking at the symbolism of the flying shield and how this interconnects, we see that the harpy traditionally is symbolized with a shield. So the harpy will often, in ancient classical sculptures, have a shield, or is connected with the symbolism of the shield. And this is because it works upon the wordplay of Arpue, which is an abductor, and Opolon, which is a shield, connected to Pleon, which is a boat. And so when we begin to break this down, we see that Opolite soldier is a type of naval retinue, which is identified with these flying vessels and are equated with non-human entities and abduction. So that's, if you like, some of the how some of the areas interconnect with Scaphology. And again, that there are very close connections between modern ufology and new ufology, which is this deconstruction of ancient symbolism.
We have about 90 seconds here to go before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, our guest is Pierre Sabak. Pierre, I want to ask you, in regards to symbology, isn't some of this reaching a little bit, that a shield is a flying saucer just because they look the same?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is polyglottal symbolism. So you're seeing that the symbols are found throughout ancient mythology. So, for example, when we look at the Roman mysteries, you have the tradition of Elgaria, who again is related to agero, which is to give or to convey, which is related to this angelic tradition. Now, according to this tradition, there was a shield which fell from heaven, and this shield was so powerful that it was said that whoever possessed this shield would be the dominant race within the world, and this was hidden by the priesthood. So the Roman hierarchy designed a special priesthood, which were known as the Salalians. Now, the Salalians made copies or replicas of these shields, and they buried the original shield somewhere which was hidden or which was considered to be sacred. And so we know, therefore, that the shields are connected to these fallen vessels. And we certainly find this also within the symbolism of the Aegis, because the deity itself is connected to the shield. And so we find that there's an etymological connection between the Greek word Aegis and Eger, which is the helm of a vessel or a boat. And again, this is because the shield was typically adorned on the helm of the vessel or a boat, and it was a type of guard or was used to protect. So that's something which is, we see that the symbolism is consistent.
Pierre, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Pierre Sabak, author extraordinaire, Symbolism, Occult, Mythology, continues right after this. Good job, man.
Thank you.
Good job. You're very well spoken. Thank you. for making my job easy.
Right, okay.
Got to ask you right off the bat here, my friend. We ask every new guest this. It's an important question, probably the most important question you'll get all night. What's your opinion of eating breakfast foods for dinner?
Uh, yeah, it's probably a good idea, particularly if you're waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I had curry today, but I wanted a substantial breakfast in order to be able to, chat.
But would you eat it for dinner, let's say, or supper time?
I don't know. To be honest, I tend to eat pretty much the same type of food as what I'd eat for breakfast as what I'd eat for dinner. So, yeah.
Are you eating eggs and toast and muffins for dinner?
I'm just trying to no, not
Good
generally.
Man. Good man.
No,
Good man.
I'm tending to eat good things like curry and things like that.
Well, that's good stuff for you.
Rice and sushi and
That's
that type
fine.
of food.
That's fine. As long as you're not eating like sausages and pancakes and waffles and eggs and hash browns, perfect for me. We have a winner here, Purple. People, he does not eat breakfast for dinner. He's a good man that we got on tonight. Good man. You sick bastards listening in who eat breakfast for dinner. We're going to get along just fine tonight, my friend. Just fine. All right. That's all I got. The show's pretty much over now. You just solved the entire mystery that we were looking for.
All right, okay.
Yeah. My audience harasses the hell out of me about breakfast for dinner. So their breakfast foods are a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Well, there probably is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly. Where in the UK are you?
yeah, I'm around Yorkshire, around that area. So
Very cool.
Northern England.
I've never been over there.
No, I haven't been to the States either. So I've been to Japan, but not to the States.
You got to come to the Commonwealth side. The Americans are traitors.
Right. Okay. Well, you know what? Well, yeah, I've got a relative who died in Canada, Captain Webb. He was the guy first Englishman to swim across the English Channel, and he drowned down the Niagara Falls. He tried to swim across the Niagara Falls, didn't make it, unfortunately.
Yeah, that water's a little rough.
It's a little rough, yes.
You don't want to do that. That's just out of pure
I mean, I've always
recommendation.
fancied Canada, because I think Canada's quite very similar to the UK in terms of its climate, and it reminds me of Northern Europe. So that's certainly a place that if I was going to live in the States, Canada would be at the top of my list.
Very cool. Very cool. Because the Commonwealth loves you, and we love the Commonwealth.
Right.
Unlike them traitorous bastards south of the 49th parallel. Oh, the Americans. And we won in 1812, by the way. Hey, Eric Martin, how you doing? Hey, from Montreal. Right on, man. I would eat poutine for breakfast. Yes, I would. Your Habs are kicking the shit out of my Canucks tonight. Holy cow. Well, last I checked, it was 7-3 in the third. Hold on, let's get an update here. Yeah, that's a final. 7-3. 7-3 final. That is a good old-fashioned ass kicking right there. Yes. All right, Lord Ward, how you doing? Howard, it's true. It's true. Nothing I said is not true. Hey, Sam Faz, welcome to our chat room. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you to Cat Chaser for the awesome super chat. Much love to you, Cat Chaser, for always taking care of us. And let's see here. Big thank you to everybody who's hit the thumbs up and thumbs down. And we're about 45 seconds away. Terry Brown, welcome to the show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Michael, the Jets? The Jets are like the Cleveland Browns. You've never won anything. We're getting into the hockey talk here now. All right, Pierre, we got 20 seconds. Hi, Matthew Mason and Uncle Tim in the Spreaker chat room. 10 seconds. Hi, Jenny. Welcome to the show. 5 seconds. Here we go. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really do appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with our guest tonight, author Pierre Sabak. New Ufology. This is what we're getting into tonight. It's pretty deep so far. Pierre, welcome back.
Hi, yes, it's great to be back. I just want to pick up on the fact which we were talking about shields before, because I think that this is actually important.
Let's do that.
It's particularly important in terms of the Jinn. So for the audience, the Jinn is a type of spirit, and this is something that I would like to talk about a little bit later on. Typically, the Jinn are equated with the Ruach Elohim, which are the high spirits. The Elohim is the generic word for a god. It's a plural word meaning gods, and was used in the ancient world in the Semitic languages to refer to the deities, which were equated with heaven. Now, the Jinn as spirit, is equated etymologically with Jana, to hide or to conceal. And this is because the Jinn are considered to be an invisible race. But when we look at the etymology, Jana is also related to Junna, which is a shield. This is because the shield hides one. It's used as a protectorate or a guard. And therefore, the shield is equated with the Jinn, and the Jinn also is identified with the seraphic host or the seraphim. Therefore, we see that there's an etymological connection with Jinn, which is a serpent or a worm. And this symbolism is found within the ancient Greek mystery religions, because they also represented the goddess with the aegis, with the shield. And when we look at the symbology, typically what you will find is that the goddess is holding a shield. As we said before, the shield is equated with Pleona boat, Opulon, which is a shield, which is equated with Arpue and abductor. But the symbolism is polyglottal. It's conversant within multiple languages. And so therefore, when you're looking at the goddess and the shield, you see that there is this connection between the Jinn, Jana, to hide or to conceal, Junna, which is a shield, and Jen, which is a serpent or a worm. And so the symbology is equated with the seraphic host. As we said before, there is this interrelationship between serpent, which are the seraphim, which are these non-human angels, which are reptilian in appearance, and this interconnection with Sapana Sailor and Safina, which is a ship. And so, again, traditionally, we're dealing with these non-human angels, which are equated with aliens in the modern parlance. And I think that this is something which really needs to be elaborated, because within the ancient Semitic, not only was the angel connected to the sailor, as I've mentioned before, the Angelic Sailor, so there's this correlation between Malak an angel and Malak a sailor. But when we begin to look at the ancient Aramaic language, they also define the angel as an alien. And so therefore, the word Zar, which is an angel, is polymorphic. It also means an alien, a stranger, or a visitor. So therefore, we see that Zar, an angel, is equated with an alien. The two terminologies are synonymous. And this is certainly found within the modern Hebrew word, Khazar. Khazar is the Hebrew word, the modern Hebrew word for a spaceman or an alien. But Khazar is going back to the ancient Aramaic word Zar, which is an angel, which is also polymorphic of an alien, a visitor, or a stranger. So this is something which is really important, because when we begin to break it down and look at the deconstruction, we see that the angels are identified with sailors, and they're also identified with different star systems as well. And I think I will just give you a basic overview of how these angels interconnect with different star systems. And then this helps to paint a picture that the angels are therefore one and the same thing with an alien, in terms of how we would define what an alien is, in terms of a crew member, in terms of a being which is not only interdimensional, because the Jinn are interdimensional, but they're also interplanetary, that they are an interplanetary species. So when we look at, for example, the Kabbalistic tradition, we see that the Ben Sira, a son of a boat, is another synonym or another name for an angel, Malak a sailor. So the Ben Sira is a son of a boat. Now, this is important because it's a type of encoding. The word Sira is a diptych paranamesi. This is a special type of wordplay which works from the Arabic into the Arabic. The Ben Sira, is a special type of wordplay which works from the Arabic into the Hebrew. So therefore, the Hebrew word Sira, which is a boat, is identified with the Arabic word Sira, which is Sirius. So the Ben Sira, a son of a boat, is a diptych paranamesi, or it's a wordplay from the Hebrew into the Arabic of the sons of Sirius. So the sons of Sirius are identified with the sons of a boat. Now, this is also important when we look at the Quranic tradition and what is referred to as the second creation, because according to the Quranic tradition, which is based upon the Hermetical traditions, there is this ancient belief in what was known as Panspermia. Spermatos, which means seed in the Greek, is this idea that the life forms were planted by the angels. And so we see that there's this relationship between Sira, which is a boat in the Hebrew, Sira, which is the Arabic word for Sirius, but we're seeing that there's a correlation with Yetzirah, which is creation, and Yetzer, which is a creature, because the Ben Sira planted life. And therefore, when you look at the etymologies, there is this close cognate between Zar, an angel or an alien, equated with Zara to sod, Zaria, which is seed, because the angels were seeders of entire worlds. And therefore, the sons of a boat, the Ben Sira, are equated with Yetzirah, creation, and Yetzer, which is a creature. And so this is found within the ancient traditions, and is found within the traditions of Panspermia, this idea that life forms were planted upon the earth. And so, that's, if you like, a basic summary of the Ben Sira and the Sons of the Boat. Now they interconnect with the planting of life on the earth. I don't know if you have any questions or...
I'm just sitting back listening, man, because this is deep stuff for a lot of us.
I mean, it goes back into the traditions of the Elake and the Ruach Elohim. I think I want to just clarify the relationship between the Jinn and the Elohim, and how they're all interconnected. So when we look at the Jinn, there's a relationship between Jinn, Janna, which is to hide or conceal, and Jen, which is a serpent or worm. Now, the Arab theologians translated the word Jinn into the Hebrew as seraph or seraphim. Now, the word seraphim is equated with serapha, which is fire. And again, fire is used as a signifier of Sirius. And so traditionally, the Jinn are said to be born of fire in the same way. And again, the Jinn are said to be a fiery species. And obviously, this is interconnected to this idea that the Jinn are spirits. But they are also physically materialized as well. But fire is also used as an astrotheological marker to denote where they originate from. So therefore, the Jinn are equated with Sirius. Now, the etymology of Sirius, Sira, comes from the root Sara, which is a spark. So Sirius is the sparkling one, and therefore is used as an esoteric signifier of the seraphim, seraph, a serpent, serapha, which is fire. So the sparkling one is the fiery one, which is the scorching one. In the Greek, Sirios, the scorching one, the sparkling one. And so the Jinn and the seraphim are both identified astrotheologically with Sirius. Now, the Jinn traditionally are equated with the Ruach Elohim. The Ruach Elohim is the ancient word for the high spirits. Now, the high spirits are deemed to be both, they can dematerialize, but they're also a physical species as well. And we find this within the traditions of the Jinn. Traditionally, the Jinn are described as this paradoxical race. They can both materialize physically, but they can also dematerialize. And I describe this as a holographic culture, but there is certainly this interrelationship between the Ruach Elohim, the high spirits, and a Helake, which is a living God. Now, the word Elake is a polymorphic symbol because Elake also is a high creature, or a high creature, or a living creature, a high creature, and is very much, in today's parlance, we could translate this as an extraterrestrial biological entity because the two terminology are interconnected. Now, as I said before, K can be K, which is life or living, a living god or a high creature. K are an animal, are identified with these living gods, which are equated with Ka, which is an animal. As we said before, K is also connected with Kazar, which is in the modern Hebrew word for a space alien. So, and Kazar, which is Kazar, a space alien, and Zar, which is an angel or an alien. So the Ruach Elohim, the high spirits, and the Elake, which are the living creatures, are one and the same thing. And I want to emphasize this. They are this paradoxical race. They have deconstructed the mechanics of reality. They are an interdimensional species, but they are also interplanetary. And there's no contradiction there. They are described in the Arabic as the Lord of all of the worlds, and this is because they have penetrated both the spiritual realm, but they've also penetrated the physical realm, and they are also an interplanetary species. And as we said before, they are interconnected with Panspermia and the planting of life upon the earth, which is in the Quran is referred to as the second creation. The second creation is very distinct from the first creation, which is the creation of the anthropos and the creation of the first races, which are the humanoid races. So that's, if you like, a summary of how the Jinn are this non-physical race, but they can materialize physically.
I got to ask one question about the Jinn,
yeah,
though, because when we think about the Jinn, we always think of ancient Arabic, going back to a lot of times from older times from the Middle East. We kind of, even though it's real close on the globe, we seem to separate that from the African nations or the European nations or the Asian, the Northern Asian ancient civilizations as well. So is that tradition spread right across the world with the Jinn and what their badass attitudes can be every now and again, or is it specific to one area because that's where humankind allegedly began?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Well, no, it's not spread to one area. I would say that this is universal, and this is found within the artifact, which I describe in my book, Holographic Culture. The artifact is the alien code which is found within human language, and it works upon polyglottal symbolism, word plays which are found in multiple languages. But getting back to your question, we see that in the Persian language, the word for jinn is peri, and peri is related to the Akkadian word pir, which is a serpent, whereas we find that there's a relationship in the Arabic with jinn, which is a spirit, which is coming from the Aramaic root, and jen, which is a serpent or a worm. Now, the serpent or worm is used in the Greek mystery religions to represent the draken. Drakain is to watch, or to perceive, or to flash. It's a polymorphic word, but essentially a drakon is a type of sentinel which is equated with heaven. Now, within the ancient languages, the drakon is another word for a watcher. The watcher in the ancient Aramaic is Erin, a watcher, which is equated with the Elohim. And so we're seeing that there's this relationship between the watchers, which are identified with the seraphic component or the seraphic host. And so when we begin to deconstruct the etymologies, we see that there's a relationship between Elohim, the high ones, which are used as a generic term for the gods, Erin, which is a watcher or a shining one, which are interconnected. And again, we would see that there's a connection also with the deity Yahweh and Yara, which is to see, again coming from the root Ra, which is to see or to perceive. And again, we see there is an interconnection with the Egyptian sun god Ra, again, is interconnected with the idea of seeing. But again, this is all polyglottal. When we look at the Greek mystery religions, there's an interconnection between theos, God, and theoros, which is a watcher. Again, the watchers are the seraphim or the dragon, as found with, for example, Sopheth, a watcher, seraph, which is a serpent, which is the highest order of angel, which are connected to the Elohim. Now, the Elohim and the watchers are one and the same thing, and I think that this is really important to emphasize. We find connection of this with the Bene Elohim, the sons of the gods. The sons of the gods are famously referred to in Genesis 6 in the Bible. They procreated with the daughters of Adam, the Bene Adam, and they created a race known as the Nephilim. Nephilim is the Arabic word for a giant, the giant. Nephil, a giant, again, is a wordplay on Nephil, which is fallen. Now, the Nephilim are astrotheologically identified with Nephilia, which is Orion, and the terminology Nephilim, again, is another synonym for the Jibbarim, which is the Semitic word for Orion. Jibbar is Orion. So the Jibbarim are described as the men of renown in Genesis 6, but they're translated in the Greek as the heroes. Again, the word heroes is coming from air, which is air, which again is a representation of the Ruach Elohim, the high spirits, and therefore the Nephilim are typically represented within the symbolism as spirits, but they procreate with mortals, and so they are also identified with the physical species. They are described as a somnumatic species. So this refers to a species which has both a body but is also spiritual. So a man has a spirit and is also a physical body. So we are somnumatic as well. But the difference with the Nephilim is that they have deconstructed the mechanics of physical reality. They are holographic culture. They have deconstructed the waveform reality, so they can they know, if you like, the difference between the particle, which is the physical order, which is the explicated order, and then the world of ideas, or the universal world of ideas, or which is the spiritual realm, which is the implicated order. And they have control over these different orders, which is waveform reality. And this is the reason why these different beings are interconnected with different star systems and different planets. But because they have this knowledge of waveform reality, they also have a knowledge of the subtler realms as well, and of the spiritual realm. The spiritual realm in the Greek tradition is the imaginal realm of ideas, which are the realm of universal forms. And these universal forms of universal ideas are particularized within the physical realm as particular ideas within Platonic philosophy. And this really interconnects into the science of the Pythagorean monochord. The Pythagorean monochord is described as a single string. And so we have a vibrating string, whereas the slowest vibration of the note is physical reality, where the quickest vibration is the immaterial, or the spirit, the incorporeal. And the Pythagorean monochord are the different vibrations, which are the different dimensions. And so sound is very much connected to vibration, which is connected to the materialization of the spirit into matter, or this duality between the waveform and the particle. And so again, there is, if you like, this interconnection within the mystery religions between ek, which is sound, akon, which is an image or an apparition, and archon, which is a ruler or an angel. Now, the archons are identified with ark, which is a naval vessel, from the Greek root olkas, which is a large carrier vessel. And so again, we're finding within the Greek tradition this polyglottal symbolism, which is indicative of the artifact, which is this ancient code or alien code found encoded within human languages. And so when we're dealing with if you like, the angels and the aliens, it's really important to emphasize that there is this interdimensional component to them. But that's not throwing the baby out of the bathwater, because they're also identified with different star systems. They are masters of the waveform, and this means that they are Lord of, as described in the Quran, Allah is described as the Lord of all of the worlds. And this is because they have interpenetrated both the spiritual realm, which is the imaginal realm of ideas, but they are also interplanetary, and they can exist outside of time, so they can exist within quantum states. So that's basically, if you like, the summary of how the Jinn and the space alien are one and the same thing, because they really interconnect within the symbology. But this is found within occult symbolism.
Where do the Anunnaki come into play?
Okay, the Anunnaki, really, the correct terminology is really Anaki. Now, Anaki is another word for the Gibberim, but the word Anak, which is a giant, is a wordplay. It's a diptych paranomasis. So the Hebrew word Anak, a giant, is a wordplay on Anax, which is a prince or a descendant of heaven. So we're seeing that there's this interconnection between the angelic lineage and the royal lineage, which are described as the demigods. In the Greek, Hemitheoi, which is a half-god, represented with the wordplay Hemitheos, which is a worm. As we said before, there's this interconnection between Jinn and Jen, which is a serpent or a worm. And this is really important when we look at the symbology of the king, and now the king is identified with the serpent. I mean, British authors, David Icke, have looked at this relationship between, if you like, reptilian beings and the monarch. But this is an ancient idea and is found within occult symbolism. And I describe this within my book, Holographic Culture, and again, it's also found in my book, The Murder of Reality. But essentially, when you begin to look at deconstruct the etymologies, you see that there's a connection between, shall we say, the Serif, which is a lord, and Seraph, which is a serpent. In the Greek, there's Archon and Drakon, which is a wordplay. The Archon is a ruler, but it's polymorphic. Archon also it means an angel, but Archon is interconnected with Akan, which is the Babylonian root for a serpent. And again, we're seeing that there's a relationship with the Persian word Mal, which is a leader, Ma, which is a serpent, and so there is this interrelationship, if you like, between the ruler and this angelic lineage. And this is certainly found within our political systems as well. And so, for example, when we look at the bi-parliamentary system, we see within the Hebrew that there's an etymological identification with the word Satan, coming from the word Sinton, which is two. But Satan originally was used to denote an adversary or an opponent, but it was also used to denote a political party. So Satan could also refer to a political party, and therefore the word Satan, or within the Hebrew Shaitan, is identified with Shilton, which is a government, because the government are satanic. By definition, they are adversarial or oppositional. The governments are equated, Shilton, a government, is equated to Sultan, which again is this royal lineage, equated with Tanim, which is a dragon, the Arabic word for a dragon, equated with the old Semitic word Tahen, which is to gleam or to shine. As we said before, the shining ones are the watchers. Erin is a shining one or a watcher. Again, a watcher is connected with Or, which is light, which are identifications of the Elohim, which are the high ones, which are equated with Sirius. And this goes into the traditions of the Illuminati, or the Shining Ones. And therefore, we see that there's this interrelationship between the Axori, which is a brother of light, which is the ancient word used to denote the Illuminati, and Axari, which is a wordplay on the Axori. So Axori is a wordplay on Axari, a brother of an angel or an alien. So the word Illuminati is used to denote the brother of an angel or an alien. It's used, if you like, as a cryptic signifier of the descendants of the angels, which, as we said before, is this royal ascendancy. Again, it's denoted in the English word kingship, which is coming from this root origin of Malak, an angel, and Malak, a king.
My friend, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we do have to go to break at the top of the hour. What an incredible piece of knowledge in that first hour. I cannot wait for hour number 2 with Pierre Sabak. He is an author. You could get all of his books on Amazon or go to his website, pierresabakbooks.com. You get him right there. Best to buy him off his website. That's why he gets all the money there. You know, it's easier that way. It really is. And we're going to get into holographs. We're going to get into reality, symbolism, aliens, and more. Pierre Sabak, he's making us put our brains on tonight. Wow. I'm learning a lot tonight. It's almost scary. Right here on Spaced Out Radio. Dude, you know your shit. I'm not gonna lie, you know your shit. Wow.
Well, I spend most of my time reading dictionaries, so.
Well, yeah, you sound amazing. Just amazing. I'm just gonna run my dogs outside, so I'll be right back. Okay?
Yeah, how long do we have? Because I'm
We
just
got
might
about
have a.
5.5 minutes.
All right, I'll have a quick stretch and then I'll be back in.
And music camps.
Okay.
Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, little brother is watching.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TEPA. We teamed up with Space Out Radio to investigate cases per night on the SOR satellite system. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR satellite system.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and we have some cool swag for you to pick up. All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today. Take it from the top.
Go! Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/spacedoutradio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
I'm back. And, yeah. Wow. My brain hurts. I'm not gonna lie. I love it when this happens, man. Holy cow. We've got about 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Y'all having fun tonight in our chat room? Let us know. Right. People are loving you. All right, we've got 1 minute. 1 minute. By the way, if you've ordered shirts from the SOR Vault, I mailed them out today. So they should be with you within 7 to 10 business days. And here we go with the second hour, everyone. I lied. We got 30 seconds. 30 seconds. Armando, we always start at 9 o'clock Pacific, midnight Eastern. Cat Chaser, thank you so much for the super chat. And it's a good way to support this show. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up or down. And if you are new to the channel, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Here we go in 5 seconds. Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, KPNL, and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Labiorphily. Labiorphily is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as a clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on tonight with Pierre Sabak, his website, pierresabakbooks.com. If you want to check him on out, you can get all of his books right there. New Ufology is the topic, a study of occult symbolism, and we're going in deep and fast tonight. Pierre, welcome back.
Hi, it's great to be back.
I want to start off with a question from our audience, if you don't mind.
Sure, okay.
Sovereign is asking, what is up with those who genuinely speak in tongues? Are they possessed somehow?
Yes, I think this is a very important point. Within the ancient traditions, the Jinn are equated with telepathic communication. So within the ancient languages, the Karen, which is translated as a companion spirit or a Jinn, I translate the word as a familiar because the Karen are really a type of familiar spirit. But the etymology of Karen is related to Kari, meaning telepathic within the Arabic. So the Jinn from the ancient languages are equated with being a telepathic species, and therefore they communicate through the mind. And I think that this is very important when we begin to look at the seraphim, for example, because there's an interconnection between seraph and safa, which is language. And we're seeing that language informs the way in which a person thinks and behaves. And this is very important. And this is why the language has been controlled and manipulated through what I describe as the artifact, which is this polyglottal symbolism found within human languages. And therefore, certainly when we look at the etymology of, let's say, the Arabic word tab, which is an addition, and tabi, which is a partisan, and Taliba, which is a student, all of these etymologies are coming back to the root Taban, which is a serpent, which goes back to the Theban priesthood. And so the representation of the serpent and its denotation through language is important. But as I mentioned before, this is polyglottal, so therefore within the Japanese traditions also, we see that there's an interconnection between the Tengu, which is this reptilian type of deity, which is typically symbolized with a large nose. Now, the large nose is used as a signifier of the serpent because the serpent has an excellent sense of smell. But the word in Tengu, which literally translates as heaven's dog, and again, the Tengu traditionally are shown as standing on the back of a dog, but the dog is used to denote the dog star, which is Sirius again. So the Tengu are equated with Sirius, but the Tengu are identified with Tango, which is word. So again, they're connected with language as well. So whether we're dealing with the Seraph and Safa, which is language, or in the Japanese traditions with the Tengu and Tango, which is word, they control language, and they control language through the artifact. And again, the species are correlated with being able to communicate through the mind. So that's, if you like, a basic summary of these beings. That this goes back into the ancient record. It's not just the fact that the grey alien is a telepathic being, but this is a very ancient idea.
All right, let's get to another question from our audience. This one comes from Aaron, who is asking, where you studied ancient Hebrew translation?
I've studied, I've looked at ancient Hebrew translations. I would describe myself more as a comparative etymologist. So I've spent many years looking at different dictionaries, and so I haven't just studied Hebrew. I've looked at Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic, Latin, Greek, and again, even I've looked at some of the Indo-European languages as well. So I'm more of a comparative etymologist. I don't speak Hebrew or Greek, but I look at words, and I'm particularly interested in their association and where they originate from. So the study of ancient languages is known as philology. Philology is closely identified with theology, theos, which is God, but philology is the study of language, where etymology is the study of words and the study of the root of words. So the word etymology is a derivative from etymos, which means truth. Again, this idea that words encode truth is a very intrinsic idea. So that's, if you like, my background. But I've spent many, many years looking at various different dictionaries. And what I've come to understand is that there is this universal code within language. It's a type of signature, and I describe this signature as the artifact, which is this alien code within language. And I believe that these entities, that they've insinuated themselves, their ideology, their belief systems within this universal code within human language, and therefore we can see the existence of the others, again within the Greek allos, another or other, which is represented by the halo, which is halos and halo. So in the mystery religions, they would represent the angelic lineage with a halo, which is at one level a symbol of the shining ones, which are the illuminated ones, which are equated with the symbolism of Sirius. But allos, another or other, is equated with allos, a halo, and Halios, which is a fisherman, but the fisherman is used in this context to denote an angel, and the fish is an important symbol. This actually goes into cytological symbology, which is the study of vessels, from the Greek word koutos, which is a vessel. But essentially, vessels were used to denote the angels and their carrier vessels. So a quick example of cytology would be the genie within the lamp. Now, the genie's lamp is typically shaped within the shape of a boat, specifically a bark, which is an Egyptian type of ferry boat. Now, the word bark is polymorphic in English. It works on polymorphic symbolism. So bark is as into bark as in a dog. Now, the dog is equated with the dog star, which is Sirius. But again, the symbology is polyglottal. Therefore, we see that there's a relationship in the Hebrew between sira, which is a boat, sira, which is the plural noun for wolves in the Arabic, and so therefore this is where we would get the root word for a bark. It's the Latin translation of the polymorphic word, and this is important. So they're translating the polymorphic word from the Semitic language in order to encode the symbology. So the Jinn are equated with a lamp, which are equated with a boat, which are equated with Sirius.
Okay, let's move on to another question from our audience. This one comes from Vinny, who's asking, what are the emerald tablets of Thoth?
Okay, well, the emerald tablets of Thoth describe, well, they're thought to be a recent forgery, a 19th century forgery. So, I mean, they're fairly old. But again, just because something is forged, it doesn't actually mean that it's not coming from an occult source. And I think that this is very important to emphasize. Now, within the emerald tablets of Thoth, it describes how the leaders of men were killed and they were taken over by a being which could take on the form of a human, but which was serpent, which is a representation of the Jinn. But again, I suspect that with the Emerald Tablets, that it's working upon the wordplay. So there's this wordplay, as I mentioned earlier, between ek, which is sound, akon, which is an image or an image, akon, which is an angel or a ruler, and akan, which is a seraph. Again, there is this wordplay between seraph and shofar, which is an appearance, or within the Aramaic, you have ayar, a serpent, and ayar, a serpent, and aya, which is an apparition. And this is because the serpents are equated with the Jinn. Again, you would see that there's a relationship between the Jinn in terms of awa, which is a type of Jinn, and hawa, which is air. And the Jinn are therefore equated with heaven or the high ones. They're also known in the Roman mysteries as the Nubagina, those who are born of a cloud, which relates into the nymphatic traditions, which we may talk about later. But yeah, that's essentially that. Yeah, sorry.
All right, well, let's move on to another question here. This one comes from Adam. What's the key to ancient Sumerian? Why that language?
Yeah. Again, there is a problem with the ancient Sumerian language because it's commonly said that the ancient Sumerian languages are not related to any Indo-European language. Now, the translation of Sumerian allegedly comes from the cuneiform, which is based upon the Akkadian languages, and therefore there are allegedly dictionaries of the Akkadian which translate the Sumerian. Now, the Akkadian is the old Arabic, but I mean, I have a problem with the Sumerian language in the same way that I have a problem with the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. And this is that when you begin to deconstruct the ancient languages in relation to the hieroglyphs, they just don't make sense. Now, traditionally, the Rosetta Stone was written with ancient hieroglyphs, and again, they had the Greek translations, and this is how the hieroglyphs were actually decoded. Some have argued that the Rosetta Stone was a forgery. And again, when we look at the word Rosetta, Rosetta is a cognate of rose, rosa, which is hidden, and again is connected to rota, which is a wheel, which is the tradition of the opening wheels, which is identified with the classical or naval or angelic tradition. These are all interconnected. So there is a question about whether the ancient hieroglyphs, as in the same way that the Sumerian language has been translated correctly. I would say that the translations are suspect. And I think that this is based upon the study in terms of my own study into ancient languages, the Egyptian hieroglyphs, and again, the Sumerian languages, just they don't make sense. And I think that the purveyors of this knowledge are the priesthood. I refer to them as the disciperati. Literally, the word comes from the word deceiver, but the word disciperati is a cognate of a disciple, discipulus, which is a disciple, because the disciples are led through deception. So an initiate traditionally is led through different layers or levels of knowledge, beginning first with the outer mysteries. The outer mysteries is the literal interpretation, and then the next level of knowledge is the deconstruction of the literal symbol, and therefore the symbol is analyzed in terms of astrotheological symbolism. And then the next move is it goes back and everything is turned on its head again, and so therefore you go back to the literal interpretation that the deities and the gods really do exist, and that what is found within the literal symbol is that there is a natural truth within that literalism. So this is this disciperati. So yes, what language is the Sumerian language? Well, the Hittite language was ancient Turkish. So is it related to ancient Turkish? Well, Turkish and Greek must be interconnected with the ancient Mediterranean languages, or is it coming further? Is it coming from Russia and the Caspian area? It's very difficult to know. But basically, I'm not convinced about the Sumerian languages. I think the translation of the Sumerian languages are very suspect, and I'm also very cautious of the ancient hieroglyphs. So it's best to use the original languages that we have, which are the Aramaic, Arabic, and Hebrew.
Okay, so I gotta ask you, biblically speaking, where do the stories from the Bible fit into this?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've got the Sumerian traditions which have been translated into the Akkadian traditions, and the Akkadian traditions are closely analogous to specifically the creation narratives in the book of Genesis. So there is this close relationship between the Babylonian stories of creation and the Elohim, the high ones, and their recreation of mankind. And I think that this is a really important this is something really important which we need to emphasize. Man is recreated. So there is a prototypical humanoid being which has been planted upon the earth, and therefore we're dealing here with what the Quran refers to as the second creation. And when we look at the etymology of Adam, we see that there's a relationship between Adam, which is red, and Mahadim, which is Mars, and again Adama, which is the earth, which is the red earth, which traditionally is the equated with the Adamic man or the Martian man. And so within the tradition, the Adamic man is equated with the Martian. And again, this is found within the etymology of Eden, Kadam, east, or Edom. These are all word plays, but Adam and Edom are cognates of Mahadim, which is Mars. And so man is there is a war in heaven. This is known as the Titanmachy, or the war with the Titans, and this then is essentially led into the division or the corruption of the Anthropos, which was the corruption of the original races. Traditionally, the original races of the Anthropos, the word Anthropos means human, but it's used in the more generic sense to refer to the humanoid races, in which some of these races are non-human. So we're dealing here with sentient races, which are humanoid. And so the creation of the Anthropos was the creation of the demonic, angelic, and human races, and then the corruption of the Anthropos is the genetic manipulation or the genetic cloning of these races, which are equated with the Nephilim, the giants, or the Anak, or the Anakim, or the Emim, or the Zuzumim. These are all ancient words to refer to the demigods. So,
all right, but in regards to what the Western civilization calls God, or Jesus, or the spiritual texts of, the angels of death, or the Holy Bible, or the Holy Spirit, where does that come into play?
Okay, well, originally the Elohim, the high ones, are described as Erin, a watcher, or a shining one. And as we mentioned before, the watchers or the shining one is a cognate of a dragon or a seraphim. So Drakane is to watch or to flash, which is equated with the non-human angels, the seraphim, Serapha, which is fire, Sopheth, which is a watcher. But the gods are also, as we mentioned, equated with flying shields. So there's this cognate between Theos, a god, and Thurios, which is a shield, which in the ancient mystery religions were represented as the Aegis, an Aegis of a deity. These shields were identified with emissaries and missiles. And so this is the angelic tradition, which is equated with the naval tradition. They are one and the same thing. But we see that there is this, if you like, within the Greek, the relationship between Theos, God, Theros, a watcher, and Thurion, which is a beast. As we said before, the beast is used as a synonym to denote a dragon, or Drakane, to watch, which is a sentinel, Drakon, and Drakos, which is an eye. And this is very important when we begin to deal with occult symbolism, because oculus and eye denotes occult, which is hidden. And what is the hidden tradition or the concealed tradition? Well, it pertains to the Jinn. Jinn, Jana, to hide or to conceal. Jen, which is a serpent or a worm, which is represented with oculus and eye, or Drakos, which is an eye, which is the dragon. So this is essentially the occult tradition. This seraphic tradition, which is equated with the seraphic host or the seraphic crew members of naval vessels, which are identified with Sirius and Panspermia, which is the planting of human life upon the earth, or should I say, more specifically, the recreation of the humanoid being, which is the second creation, which is distinct from the first creation, which is the emanation of the spirit, which is the aeon or the hologram, which is this concentric circle, which is an interference pattern or a hologram. So that's a quick summary.
All right, thank you for that. Antonio has a question. Do you think that we can rely on Zachariah Sitchin's translations?
No, but I do think it's coming from an occult tradition. So therefore, when you're dealing with the Disciperati and the deceivers, and I'm not saying for one moment that I'm not saying he's necessarily affiliated to that, but I'm being very cautious about Zecharia Sitchin's work because I think that there are problems with the work. Sorry, could you just repeat the question again?
Just in regards, can the translations be trusted?
Yeah, I'm very dubious about the translations of Zecharia Sitchin's work. Again, this is because he's going into the ancient Sumerian languages, and I'm not that convinced about the ancient Sumerian languages. So, but if you're interested in ancient aliens, and again, the problem is in terms of ancient aliens and Scaphology is that the subject is in complete disrepute, and this is because there's very few good academic books on ancient aliens. In fact, there's only one good book that I can think of, maybe two. There's a book by an author called Brambley called The Gods of Eden. But there's another book, and this is an excellent book. This was written in 1975 by Professor Temple, and he wrote The Sirius Mystery. And anybody who's interested in etymology should really check out this Sirius Mystery, because as far as I can see, there are only really two good books on the symbolism of ancient aliens. That's my own book in terms of holographic culture and Professor Temple's work. And so unfortunately, we're dealing here with a tradition which has been co-opted by the Disciperati, and there is, shall we say, what they're doing is they're scrambling the original translations, but they're doing it in a highly elliptical and a highly codified language. So this is through, if you like, this is modern mythology in the making. So they're taking the ancient myths and they're allegorizing them. Allos agoria. Allos means other, and agoria is speaking. So this is another speaking, which is literally idiomatic language. Idios is private, this private discourse. So they're using this codified language in order to encode ideas, but also in order to disassemble in the truth. And so this is something which we need to be mindful of, particularly when we're looking at the old deconstruction of ancient aliens and the hypotheses. And I think that this is one of the reasons why the subject has been discredited. Because when you begin to look at the occult tradition of the angels, you realize that it informs the modern traditions of ufology. You know, so at the moment, present academics will say that UFOs are basically a post-colonial construct of modern culture, and that the alien is certainly, if you look at postmodernists like Satire, he speaks about that the alien is the other, and that the alien is just really the alien is just the other, and basically the aliens are just if you like, a representation of the human, but a better representation or a more technological representation of the other. But really, when we begin to break it down, the alien is something which is ancient. It goes back into the mystery religions, and our understanding of ufology is informed through the scaphological tradition. And even when we begin to look at the word flying saucer, the word flying saucer is a representation of the votive dish. And so therefore, when you look at the hieroglyph of Sirius, you see a circle within a circle. But this is a depiction of the votive dish, because the votive dish was a circle with a little bobble in the middle. And this is used to denote the wheel and axis, which is the opening wheel. And therefore, the votive dish was a representation of a flying saucer, now which was used to denote Sirius. As we said before, there's a cognate between the Hebrew word Sirah, which is a boat, and Sirah, which is Sirius, Sir, which is a mystery, and Ra, which is the mysteries of Ra, or Ra, which is to watch, which is the mysteries of the watchers, is equated with Sirius, which is Sarah, which is the sparkling one, which denotes the seraphim or serapha, which is fire, these non-human angels. So the votive dish was used, if you like, as a reflection or as a device to worship these angelic vessels. As we said before, it's encoded within the English word worship, but it is also, if you like, analogical of the Arabic word Sabah, to praise or glorify, from the etymology Sabaoth, which is the angelic host. Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of the host. Right. Yep.
All right, Pierre, I'm going to get you to hold on right there, because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. What an entertaining show. We are getting educated and schooled tonight on Spaced Out Radio. New Ufology, Pierre Sabak, his website, pierresabak.books.com. Make sure you check it on out, pierresabakbooks.com. We continue with your questions and Pierre's comments on Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, I quickly want to remind everyone that this Saturday you can join Geraldine Orozco from the Spiritual You, Daniel Winter, Lori Ladd, Zane Daniel for the Higher Self Expo, which is free to attend starting at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. All you got to do is go register at higherselfexpo.com. Once again, it is all free. Geraldine will be there, Daniel Winter, Lori Ladd, Zane Daniel. Check it on out. It's this Saturday, so make sure you head on down if you're not willing to sleep in. So, yeah, there, I did my plug. By the way, the other thing we got to remind you guys is this show is brought to you by Mighty Moose Beard Oil. I got a couple of bottles right here. Mighty Moose Beard Oil. I'll even show you, Pierre. It's good stuff. Pure Canadianism. Right there. This stuff doesn't lose gold medal games to the United States in junior hockey. Let me tell you that. This is a winner. All natural. Real nice. Let me just show you how it works. Take a little bit here. Your Mighty Moose Beard Oil. Give it a squeeze. Drop it in your hands like so. Massage it in, people. Nice and smooth. Just massage it in. That's it. That's all you do. Keeps your beard healthy, looking good. You could have a beard that looks like mine or not. And for the ladies out there, once you don't have to use it for your beards if you don't have a beard. But what you can do is make sure that you don't get split ends. So you rub it in the old hair here up here. You do. Massage it in there. Massage it in. MightyMooseBeard.com is your website. Use promo code SOR2019. Remember, all prices are in Canadian dollars. There's my plugs. So, MightyMooseBeard.com. Remember, Gary's Dutch. When you message him, tell him SOR2019. Say, hey, Gary, you're Dutch. You know how hard it is to get a discount from a Dutchman? It's very hard. Very hard. It's true. Have you ever tried, Pierre?
Never tried, no.
It's a scary, scary time when you try and get a discount from a Dutchman. And I know this very personally. I got a lot of Dutch friends and family. Yes. I don't know what the hell happened to my hair here, but... There we go. I'm growing out my hair again, Pierre. Hey, Miss Pickles. Are you sweet or sour pickles today? Let us know. You want some beard oil, Pierre? I can spritz you through the camera if you want.
That's great, yeah. I have to tell my brother about it. My brother's got a beard. I've got a twin brother, an identical twin brother. He's got
nice.
a beard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're paying in pounds, it's going to be a lot cheaper, too. Once again, if you recently bought a shirt from the SOR Vault, I put them all in the mail today. So you should be getting your swag probably 7 to 10 business days. And there's some other treats in there for you, too. If you're looking to get a new shirt, hoodie, sweater, tank top, go to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. Take you right there. And, yeah, we'll be able to ship you off some swag very, very soon. So let's see how we do here, okay? Go to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. Prices are in Canadian dollars, too. Just so you know. Got a few more questions lining up here for you, man.
Yeah, that'd be great. And it's always great to answer people's questions.
Yeah, my chat room is like frozen right now. I got 2 chat rooms going. The one is moving so fast, and I've stalled it on the other one so that way I can save this question.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I'm a master here. Master.
Yeah, it looks like you're multitasking.
Oh, yeah. It's terrible. I'm monitoring Twitter, 4 chat rooms, a forum, massaging my beard, all at the same time.
Just out of interest, was it easier in the early days when you didn't have to pay attention to all of the different chat rooms, or is it just different?
Oh yeah, way easier.
Right.
Way easier. But you know, you get used to it, like you get used to with anything.
Yeah. Times move on. I guess there are advantages and disadvantages to any type of system that you use.
Exactly.
But it's great that people can interact in this way.
Oh yes. Yes, here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. We continue on with our great guest tonight, researcher, historian, Pierre Sabak. You can find his website where all his books are located at pierresabakbooks.com. Pierre, welcome back.
Hi, it's great to be back again.
We got a bunch of audience questions for you, man. I'd love to roll with them.
Yeah, go with it, please.
All right, Soul33 saying, what role has Armenia played in all of this? The kingdom of Urartu, or Van. Mount Ararat is an Armenian homeland. Jinn in Armenian is Hoki.
Yeah, basically the Kurdish traditions are very strong in terms of the Jinn and the Erin and the Watchers. So yeah, they're closely interconnected. Mount Ararat as well, Haaretz, which is the earth, traditionally is the landing point of Noah's Ark. Now, what's very interesting about Noah's Ark is that the word in Teva, which is an ark, is equated with Sava, which is an army, and Sabaoth, which is the angelic host. So this is the type of ship or vessel which is actually specifically equated with the angels. So yeah, the kingdoms around that area are interconnected with the Babylonian kingdoms, and there seems to be this, if you like, this interface between these different traditions and the traditions of the Jinn. So yes, closely concordant.
All right, let's move on to another question here. Sovereign is asking, do you believe that the creature we know as Sasquatch could be part of the Archons, where they referred to it as hairy demons in ancient text?
Yeah, I'd never actually thought about that, but the hairy demons are equated with Sira, which is a goat, and they were referred to the hairy demons as the Serim. Now, the Serim is typically used to denote a Jinn. Specifically, it's used to equate, it's specifically equated with the demigods. So therefore, when they represented the admixture of the human and the reptile, they would typically use hair signifiers to represent the mammal, and they would represent the serpent to represent the seraphic component. Now, in the Germanic languages, we see that there is, if you like, certainly within the symbolism, a relationship between got and gat, or goat, which is used to denote the Jinn. Again, this is the human component. I think it's kind of interesting when you look at the Japanese language as well. And again, this is encoding what I refer to as the Seraphim-Cherubim dialectic. The Seraphim-Cherubim dialectic is this discourse between the two angelic traditions, which is the humanist tradition and then the non-human tradition, which are the Seraphim. So, for example, within Japanese, you see that there's an interrelationship between Kami, which is God, but Kami is polymorphic of hair, which is this human component. But again, when we begin to break it down, there's a close cognate with Ookami, which is a wolf, which is used to denote the dog star, and Kame, which is a turtle. Now, the turtle is important because within the Japanese traditions, their entities were, the kappa were traditionally represented with turtle shells. Now, the turtle shell is used to conceal the kappa, which is that which is hidden or concealed, but it's also used as a cytological motif in order to represent the kappa and its vessel, because within the Japanese traditions you have what is referred to as the Utsu no Fune, which is a hollow boat or a hollow ship, which is traditionally represented in the Edo traditions as a flying saucer, which is round or circular like a turtle shell. So yeah, I mean, the symbolism is universal. I think I went off track there. Can you just repeat the question again, just to make sure that I got the different elements?
Well, let's just move on. We've got a ton more questions here.
Right. Okay. Well,
if you're okay.
No, I'm absolutely fine.
Aaron is asking, what do you consider the first written language?
Well, this is interesting. Traditionally, Sanskrit is said to be the derivative between all languages, all Indo-European languages. And again, I think that when we look at where the mankind was planted upon the earth, this is interesting because obviously you have the Chinese, like again, this idea that everything originates from Sanskrit is an Indo-European perspective, and it's very Eurocentric because you've got the Chinese language. But somewhere between India and China, it appears that mankind actually was planted upon the earth and that modern civilization occurred. So I think that we'd be looking at a cross between the Indo-Sino languages rather than Indo-European. In addition to this, you also have the Aborigines, and the Aborigines are the original individuals upon the planet, and this is certainly found within, let's say, within Black Masonic symbolism, because within Black Masonic symbolism, sometimes they refer to that the black races are the indigenous races, but when you look at, let's say, the Zulu races and the traditional black races, they take their origins from the stars, traditionally from the Pleiades, in the same way as many of the Native Americans do. And the Pleiades is equated with the proto-human. So really, again, this seems to be a dissimulation, because when you're looking at the symbology, it's the Aborigines who are original to the earth. And yes, some of these races are black races, but not all the black races are indigenous to the earth. And so we're seeing again that the Disciperati are mixing truth with fiction, or certainly in terms of how the occult tradition is perceived amongst the illuminated ones.
All right. Nikki is asking, are all Jinn male?
No. So, for example, we mentioned earlier of the Karen, which is a companion. Again, the Karen has a connotation of a succubus or a succubi, which can be a companion spirit, as in a sexual companion. So also you have the female equivalent of the Karen, which is a Karina. The Karina is the female companion. But again, the succubus and the succubi, or again with the ghoul as well. The ghoul is a jinn, which is a flesh-eating jinn, but ghula, meaning gluttonous in the Arabic, is also used to denote the feminine version of the word. So yes, the jinn are both male and female, and they are equated with sexual procreation as well. So, for example, you see that there is this etymological connection, certainly within occult symbolism, between daemon and demos, which is people. And again, the demiurgos is the public craftsman, which was the genetic engineer, which created life form upon the earth, which was in Gnostic philosophy the creation of the false world, which is the creation of the artifact or the construct, which is the replanting of the humanoid upon the earth and the corruption of the anthropos.
All right, speaking of Jinn, Queen Bee wants to know, are they immortal, or are they like parasites jumping from body to stay alive throughout time?
No, the jinn have extended life expectancy, and the jinn are also physical as well, and this is made in accounts such as Libelius and Strobelius and in the emetical traditions. The jinn are said to be made from refined matter, and they have control over refined matter, and this control over refined matter is through refined learning, and therefore their ability to stay alive is through their understanding of matter. We would describe this as genetic engineering, but I believe that this actually goes much further. They have conquered the waveform, so they can copy the waveform, they can copy waveform reality. So my understanding of this is that they don't necessarily need to copy just the genetic component of the life form. It's the next stage that they can copy the waveform, and therefore they can copy literally the soul pattern, which would be the individual at every single stage of their existence. And this could also include multiple lives and parallel existences. So the Jinn they have this extended life expectancy, but they can be killed. And again, it's referred to in the traditions, both in the Quran and in the Hermetic traditions. It is said that the angels are conquered and can be killed. So yes, they can be killed. And again, within the Hadith as well, it's said that when the Jinn are killed, so they can take on a human form, but when you kill a Jinn, they revert back to their non-human form. So they have an extended life expectancy. But by implication, human beings should be able to do the same themselves. This is just through refined learning.
Miss Pickles is asking, Pierre, are you an Anunnaki, Sumerian, Jinn, demon, fallen angel, alien, shapeshifter yourself?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm absolutely sure. Sometimes questions like that really frustrate me because there is sometimes a tendency to think that I spend most of my time reading dictionaries, and sometimes people are rather cynical and they say, okay, well, you're interested in this subject, so you must be part of the Illuminati or you must be part of the disinformation. I'm not. I've spent many years researching this because I'm fascinated. My interest in this subject came about from actually seeing not traditionally a flying saucer, but what I would describe as a rocket in a field, and it was that which ignited my interest in the subject.
All right, moving on to another question here.
Oh, by the way, just
Yes.
to add to that, I am not affiliated to any secret society, so I'm not a Freemason. I don't believe in Masonic societies because they hoard knowledge, and I believe that this knowledge shouldn't be hoarded. I believe that it should be disseminated, and this is what I'm trying to do through my studies because, as I mentioned before, the classical tradition, Classis and Naval Fleet, Malak and Angel, Malak a Sailor, the Angelic Sailors, is this redacted tradition, and I'm trying to open this up and try to let the audience understand that the religious and the mythological tradition, because they are one and the same, goes back to this ufological tradition, which is this classical or classified tradition. So I'm not affiliated to any secret organization, society, or anyone. I'm a completely independent researcher.
All right, let's move on to another one. Here, Sovereign is asking, is modern Hebrew a demonic concoction? And is Paleo-Aramaic the pure original language of angels?
Well, I think, okay, I mean, Hebrew is, if you like, derived from the Aramaic in the same way that English is derived from the Romance languages, but again, he's going back into the Greek and the Semitic languages and the Old Norse as well, if you like. So, but the Hebrew is based upon the Aramaic. The Aramaic is said to be the original language of angels, but as we said before, the angel Zar is an angel or an alien, so they're one and the same thing, and Zar is equated to Sira, which is a boat in the Hebrew, which in the Arabic is Sira, which is Sirius. So the descendants of the boats are the angels equated with Sirius, which are the seraphim, the non-human host. Sarah spark, Sirius, Sira, Sirius, equated with Seraph, the serpent, or the seraphim, Serapha, which is fire, which is the sparkling one. So essentially, yes, the Aramaic is said traditionally to be the original language of the angels. In the Quranic tradition, it's transposed to the Arabic. So, but I'm sure if you went back into the ancient Old Norse, they would be saying that the language of Odin would be the language of Old Norse. I think that you have this pure and adulterated language, which maybe originates from the angels, but you know, this is purely speculative. I do think that the angels have inserted this code within language, which is polyformal and is polyglottal. It's found in multiple languages. The intention is to encode themselves in the language. It's used as a signature within the language to denote themselves, but also it's used to control humanity because language informs behavior and it controls subliminal ideas and is correlated to the symbolic component to language and the way in which that is expressed, both in terms of how it's suppressed in the subconscious and then how it's manifested through the conscious mind. So yes, a complex question.
All right, let's continue on. Armando wants to know, was Gilgamesh a hybrid, in your opinion?
Well, he's described as a hairy man. Again, the symbology of the hairy man often denotes the ape, which is the humanist tradition. And I think that this is a good point for me to actually go into how the traditions are partitioned. So traditionally within the classical philosophy, you have the Pythagorean Euclidean tradition, which are the two main philosophical areas. Now, the Pythagorean tradition, Pythagoras, is the speaker of the Python. Python or Python is equated with Apollo, which is the ancient Greek word. Python or Python is a cognate of Pythagoras. So Pythagoras is the speaker of the serpent, which is the seraphic tradition. And this is contrasted with the Euclidean tradition. Now, Euclid, he actually wrote the treatise of geometry. And the wording Euclid comes from the word Euclides, which means good glory. We could describe this as renowned, really, because he was a renowned philosopher. But Euclid is a diptych paronomasia. This is a special wordplay working from the Greek Euclides into the Arabic Euclid, which is to copy or to ape, from the etymology of Kurd, which is an ape. And therefore, it's the Euclidean tradition is this humanist tradition. And therefore, it was said of Euclid that there were no no royal roads to Euclidean geometry. The symbology there was really that this was a humanist tradition and was distinct from the seraphic tradition, which was traditionally equated with the Pythagorean tradition of numbers. Again, within the Hebrew, there's a connection between Sifra and numeral, and Seraph, which is a serpent. As we said, there is a connection between Safa language and Seraph. This is the alphanumeric component of language, which is essentially gematria. Again, gematria is equated with measurement, and measurement is equated with language, which goes into volume, and volume goes into dimension, and dimension goes into sound, which is vibration, which is the Pythagorean monochord, which is the numbers interconnected with different dimensions. But essentially, it was thought that different words had different types of sounds, and these different sounds or resonance could open up portals or could be used to infiltrate or penetrate different dimensions at the occult level.
All right, let's move on to another question here from our audience here, as our guest Pierre Sabak is here talking new ufology tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And this question is coming from Offworld Adam. Can you explain the Zionists, please? Do they represent Jupiter?
Jupiter the Father, yes, I mean, at one level they do, but the Zionist is connected etymologically to Sinai, and Sinai is a cognate from the etymology of Zinnia, which is the shield of the Lord, which, as we said, is correlated in the Greek with Theos, God, and Thurios, which is a shield, which are these heavenly vessels. Now, the word Zion and Sinai is coming from Zinnia, which is the Lord's shield. Zin, which is the bot of a shield, is the point of a shield, which is represented within Pythagorean philosophy as the circle and the triangle. The circle and the triangle is a representation of the cog and wheel. It's a stylization of the cog and wheel. So in Hebrew, there's a connection between shen, which is cog, which is also polymorphic of the word tooth, and so therefore is used to denote a cog. Now, this is because the flying saucers were put together as a series of different cogs, and this is reflected in the Aramaic word ophan, which is a wheel. But in the Aramaic, they referred to them as the ophanim wheels in the collective sense, and this is because they were put together as a series of cogs. So therefore, shen, which is a cog or a tooth, is equated in the ancient Aramaic with san, which is a saucer. And these saucers or vestibules were buried at different temple sites. This is found within the book of Jeremiah. The Rechabites actually took one of these constructions. They are referred to as a construction of the Lord, Maaseh, literally construction. So the shield of the Lord is a type of construction which was buried at the temple site in the sanctuary of Hanan, which is a wordplay on Anan, which is a cloud, because these shields were said to have fallen from heaven. So yeah, I mean, that's some of the different ideas which relates to the symbology.
Okay, moving on here, as we've got about 4.5 minutes to go before we're going to go to break at the top of the hour. This question comes from Cherie. Do the Jinn hook into humans via their eyes most of the time?
Yes. I think this is an important point. So the Erin, the Watchers, are the Shining Ones. It's a polymorphic word. One of the reasons why they're called the Watchers are the Shining Ones, well, there's three main reasons. Number one is that they're equated astrotheologically to the symbolism of Sirius, the sparkling one, the scorching one. Number two is that often when they materialize, they are said to have a shining countenance, that they radiate light. And number three is that when they communicate telepathically, they use light, and therefore they are using some type of carrier signal in order to communicate telepathically. So they use light or a carrier signal in the same way that we would use microwave radiation in order to send signals. They are sending signals to the brain through a carrier signal, which is a type of light, and therefore the Watchers or the Shining Ones convey information through light, which is through the eye. So yes, this is why the eye is a very important symbol. I mean, it refers to the Watchers or the Shining Ones, which are these telepathic beings. But at another level, in terms of the Gnostic tradition, it refers to the observer. And now the observer and the observed are intrinsic to the creation of the universe, which is the creation of the universe through the observer. So there are multiple readings. And I really want to impress upon the listener that the symbol is multiple. It has this layered meaning. It's not just one meaning, but there are multiple meanings. The symbol is really encyclopedic. It contains multiple ideas. So there are some of the ideas which are encoded with the Watchers.
All right, let's try and sneak in one or two more questions before we have to go to break. Frapp is asking, does Jinnistan exist on a higher plane of existence, or is it visible and accessible in this dimension, and can it just dematerialize?
So we're talking about the Jinn here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jinn are the Lord of all of the worlds, so they exist on different dimensions and planes because they've deconstructed the waveform reality. But they're no different to ourselves, and I want to try and impress this upon the audience because we are at the beginning of understanding waveform reality through using kind of sort of proton colliders and understanding the holographic nature of the universe. So once we have deconstructed the holographic principles of the universe and understand the holographic principles of the universe, we will then become a holographic species, and we will be able to deconstruct the different levels of reality. And so we're on the verge of this ourselves. So humanity in that respect is no different from the Jinn. The only difference with the Jinn is that they understand reality much more in a more complex way, and so they have, shall we say, a sharper focus of reality because they can focus in on different dimensions, whereas we can't. But we will get to the point where we will be able to do this ourselves technologically. We're on the brink of doing this.
All right, and let's try and sneak in one more question here. Cherie is asking, if the Aboriginals originated on Earth, are you saying the rest of the races are from other star systems? We have about 45 seconds.
That's a complex question. I think I need to answer that after the break. Yeah, we'll answer that question after the break. But essentially, the Aborigine races are original to the Earth, but again, that they have in their mythological traditions and folklore, they have a relationship with these other races. But essentially, the Adamic man is the modern Homo sapien. So all Homo sapiens on the planet today are the Adamic man. But the Aboriginal races trace their origins back to an original race which was indigenous to this planet.
Interesting. Well, we have you for another 30 minutes after the break, and I'm pretty sure that's going to move pretty fast as well. Pierre Sabak is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and we're having one heck of a time getting into all the deep audience questions. And Pierre, you're doing a great job at communicating the answers back. I will say that.
Thank you. It's very interesting because I don't normally get people to ask me questions, so I'm really enjoying this because normally just interviews
I hear you.
So it's good. We're
a little different here. We're a little different, my friend.
I think it's nice sometimes to communicate with the audience and to try and, because it's complicated, and to try and explain some of the ideas.
Absolutely. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Yeah, this is awesome. But I'm going to just run and grab, take my dogs outside quickly. I'll be right back, okay?
I'll do the same.
Okay.
Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on. The Bruce Vancouver is where you visit Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly. The Moose runs at the Rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right here? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Space Out Radio fan. It's American music and what's going on supernatural. You can head over to our website, music, all workshops, touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that keep on listening to Spaced Out Radio. You know Little Brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
Alright, my friend, I am back. And if you're in our YouTube chat right now, the chat is moving pretty fast, so I will ask you, to repost your questions, and that would really help me out, if you don't mind. I know it's a pain in the butt, but I would appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you very much. By the way, if anybody wants to know, it's -11 Celsius 12 degrees Fahrenheit outside SOR studios right now. Cold. What we call cold. Yeah. All right. We have about just under 90 seconds left. When we get to the break at the next half hour, if you could do me a favor, just sit through the break until I go to break. Then I'll say good night or good morning to you properly before we cut you loose.
Yeah, that's fine now. I understand. As I said, I'm in no rush, so you take your time what you need to in order to get what you need to get.
No, no problem. No problem. All right. Let's get ready to go here. Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Want to remind you that if you have missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around the continent and digitally on KPNL, Revolution Radio, and TalkStream Live. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. LeBeer Philly. LeBeer Philly is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we introduce Pierre Sabak. He is an author, journalist, researcher, historian, mystic, as we get into a lot of this really cool stuff called New Ufology, based on symbolism. His website, pierresabakbooks.com, where you can find all of his literature. Pierre, welcome back.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you for having me back. Brilliant.
No problem. No problem. Cherie has a question here for you, and she is asking, do you think that the Earth's grid or the universal grid has been infected with AI or some other virus that has compromised a large percentage of humanity?
That's a very interesting question. I think when you're dealing with the carry, which is telepathic, it does actually infer that these beings do have the ability to control people telepathically, and this is also found in terms of their machines as well, because within the biblical traditions of the opening wheels, which is used to denote an angelic carrier, sometimes this is represented as a throne or a throne chariot. But these wheels are described as being controlled through the intellect or through the spirit, Ruach, which is a spirit. And so in many respects, their flying saucers are teleological devices, which are controlled through the mind. Now, this is important because they can control human minds. I don't think that this is a new thing. I think this is very, very ancient. They have the ability to read the thought forms of not only just the human being, and therefore psychologically they understand human beings better than the human animal itself, but they have the ability to read all patterns within nature, which would be, for example, what the ant thinks or how the ant perceives the world. So they have this data and they can assimilate this data, and I think that they're very interested in emergent systems. They're interested in evolutionary cycles. So yes, I think that's at one level. I think in terms of 5G, there is this push towards this teleological technology. I suspect that this technology is from these beings, and that there is an attempt to use telepathic technologies. I don't think that this, it's certainly found within, let's say, researchers like Farrell. He talks about this. Also, authors like Neil Haig as well. He wrote a book called Orion's Door. This is an excellent book. And it looks at Orion symbolism, but he also talks about how this technology can be used in order to control what people think. But I think in terms of the science behind this, there is still a lot of conjecture. So there are things which we know, and then there are things that we don't know. And a lot of this is based upon conjecture and based upon what we know is theoretically possible. But just because something is theoretically possible, it doesn't mean that it is being implemented on the population. But that doesn't also preclude the fact that it's not being used on the population or could be used on the population in the future. So I think it's a very, very complicated argument. But I do think that the technology is coming from these entities.
All right, let's move on. Armando is asking, who is Barbello?
I don't know who Barbella is, so sorry.
All right, well then we can continue on here as we get into the questions from our audience. And Adam is asking, is the tuning fork a key of some sorts? If so, is it the only one key to not open things up to us?
Yeah, the tuning fork is a type of key. As we said before, this would relate to the Pythagorean monochord, which are basically different notes represent different dimensions. And again, this is important in terms of the deity names, because within the Semitic, they would shorten the words by taking out the vowels, and therefore the vowel was very significant, because the name of Yahweh, the vowels are taken out, and it's the vowels which are important, because the vowels each have different sounds or notes, which are, if you like, keys, and keys are equated with door symbolism. And the door is very important because the key is equated with a lock, and a lock in the ancient world was constructed from a series of wheels. So the key is identified with the opening wheels. And again, we find this relationship between klasa key, klasis, which is calling, so one is called, to klasis, which is this naval fleet, which is this angel or angelic tradition. And this calling, as we said before, is telepathic. So it's equated with inspiration, spiritus, which is the spirit, so inspiration from the spirit, or enthusiasm, again coming from the etymology, to be enthused by a god. So yeah, we're seeing that there's this these interesting relationships within the classical tradition.
All right, let's continue on with audience questions. John is asking, what is your thoughts about Manly P. Hall's books regarding these subjects?
Okay, well, Manly is coming from the humanist tradition, because Manly denotes a man. So he's coming from the Euclidean tradition. I think he's an excellent, I would describe him as an excellent historian on occult philosophy. In terms of understanding the inner secrets and the inner mysteries, I think he's a little bit more guarded. But if you want to understand the history of occult philosophy, he's perhaps one of the best scholars on the subject.
All right, let's continue on with some audience questions here on Spaced Out Radio. Bomber is asking, have you ever looked into the subject of Sasquatch? If yes, what do you believe are their beginnings in relation to stars?
Okay. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with Sasquatch or Bigfoot. I do know, though, that I've got a friend called Paul Sinclair, and he's been researching this in the UK, and that there are lots and lots of accounts of Bigfoot and Sasquatch in the UK, particularly around the Sheffield area and around the Yorkshire area. So yeah, if you're interested in Sasquatch, and particularly if you're interested in looking at these traditions from the British Isles, then I recommend the work of Paul Sinclair. He's an excellent author.
All right. Christy is asking, what important piece of information can you give for a solution to the issue we all face with entities using us as commodity?
I think empowerment. So I think we need to begin to think for ourselves. So for an example of this, in terms of my own research, I didn't read what Zachariah Sitchin said or what other people said, but I went back to the ancient languages and I wanted to understand the languages, in particular the root of words, because it's looking at what the actual words mean, then we can deconstruct the symbology. So before Scaphology, which is the deconstruction of angelic boats within the religious and mythological tradition, yes, the idea that the angel was an alien was, shall we say, propagated within the alternative media through authors such as Zachariah Sitchin. But that was never established or proven, and I think that my work is the first book which has proven this correlation between the angels and the fact that they were depicted as sailors and that they were identified with astrotheologically with different star constellations. And this is important because then it actually informs our understanding of ufology. So, for example, the flying saucer, the first usage of the word flying saucer came from Kenneth Arnold, and this was published on the 24th of June. But the 24th of June is the same date in which the Lodge of Freemasonry and also the Rosicrucian orders were all established. So the 24th of June is a very significant Masonic date. And I believe that this was important because the Masons were actually releasing information about the occult tradition, which appertains to the angels. So if you like, this was a type of private disclosure amongst the initiated.
All right, moving on here. Nikki is asking, the Jinn are actually extremely dangerous. Why have you chosen to do so much study of them?
Yes, I mean, knowledge is dangerous, isn't it? Because what you do with that knowledge it can be dangerous. I don't know. I didn't intend to study the Jinn. I mean, I intended to understand what the flying saucer was, and I thought I could try and understand that better because of what I saw as a child. I wanted to understand that. I think when I started researching this, I just didn't think that there would be any answers. I thought that this was a mystery. And again, I think that this is due to disinformation because the flying saucer is called an unidentified object, but this is really a new word which came from Blue Book, and I think that this was used in order to mystify the flying saucer, in order to make the flying saucer unassailable. And I think that when we begin to look at the ancient symbolism of the flying saucer, it can be understood, it can be deconstructed, it can be pigeonholed, it can be categorized. And indeed, the ancients did categorize the flying saucers. They represented them as the opening wheels from the root pana to turn. So these were spinning wheels, which were equated in the symbolism with chariots. Again, they were equated with the thrones, and the throne is often combined with the wheel and the serpent, which denotes the seraphic host. And again, even within the representation of, let's say, redemption as well, in the theological tradition, you have something which is known as numismatology, which is the symbolism of money. But within the ancient symbology, the coin traditionally has a serrated edge, which is a type of cog, which is used to denote the opening wheels. And this idea of purchasing redemption for sin is going back to the worship of these vessels, which are found even within our financial systems of money, which are denotational of deities, hence the connection between numen, a deity, and numos, which is a coin. So, yeah, it's very ancient.
Okay, moving on here. As we got a question from Queen Bee. Do you know anything about the Vril? Are they fey or real?
Vril, no, I know very little about this.
They're from the German times, Nazi Germany, around World War II.
Well, my guess is that they would be connected to the Jinn. Again, the Indo-European root of the word fairy is connected to peri, which is the Persian word for a jinn or a fairy. But the word fairy, again, is very closely synonymous with the seraphim, which is found within the polyglottal symbolism. So in English, there's a connection between fairy, fiery, and ferry. And therefore, the ferries are ferry boats. But the word ferry boat is connected to a fairy. But the same symbology is also found with the seraphims, hence the connection between Seraph, which is a serpent, Serapha, which is fire, and Safina, which is a boat. It's the same symbology. So the seraphim and the seraphic tradition, which is the Jinn, which are identified with the Elohim, the high ones, Erin, which is a watcher or a shining one. These are all interrelated traditions, and they go back to the Scaphological tradition.
All right, moving on here, as we have another question from... Oh, this chat room is moving so darn fast right now. Let's get to Frap. Do you think the Jinn constructed the pillars of Irem, the lost city in the Rub al-Khala desert? And do you think that could be a real portal to the land of Jinnistan?
Okay. Yeah, I kind of, when we're dealing with archaeology, I have a problem with this idea that somehow the Jinn built all these ancient monuments, whether it's pillars or pyramids. I think that the Jinn and the angels, the deities, the Elohim, they gave mankind the knowledge in order to engineer. But this knowledge was then, they've kind of, what they did is they set up the hardware and then they let the software run itself. And they do intervene because I think that they're interested in effectuating evolutionary cycles. So they can do this by depressing the economy or through warfare, etc. And they do this in order to encourage emergent systems. But I think when you're looking at certainly the pyramids, and this is not the pillars, but I think the analogy runs true. The pyramids were built through this knowledge, but this would be the same if we said about the World Trade Center. You know, in a couple of 100 years' time, people say, "Oh yeah, did the Jinn build the World Trade Center?" No, but the same knowledge which was used to build the World Trade Center was also the same knowledge used to build the pyramids, and this comes from an ancient knowledge. But as I said, the Jinn are interested in these evolutionary cycles, so they're interested in, and they've planted humanity in different races on different planets, and what they're doing is they're using emergent systems, and they're interested in knowledge because knowledge is the common currency of the universe. And I think that they're a predaceous species, and what they're doing is they're mining intelligence, and so they're encouraging these emergent systems in order to mine our intelligence. And so therefore they're learning from us in the same way that we're learning from them. It's a two-way process.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's move on here on Spaced Out Radio. And I'm just scanning for more questions here. Greco is asking on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio, are the Jinn potentially responsible for what we look at as the Mandela effect?
Potentially, yes. The Mandela effect is where things materialize in different dimensions, and therefore, well, I think there are different ideas on this. Does the Mandela effect just go back to memory? And we know that memory can be conditioned through language, so therefore you can change memories through language. That is obviously one possible interpretation. The other possible interpretation is by using these colliders, maybe mankind is opening up certain types of rifts which are causing the Mandela effect. And the other interpretation is that the Jinn in some way are trying to control different multiple realities. I certainly think that when I look at the ancient traditions of, let's say, the Mesoamerican traditions of sacrifice, for example, it seems to me that my understanding of this was that they believed that mankind in the future was killed or annihilated, and that the race of man from the future was replanted upon the earth. And if this is correct, then maybe they were sacrificing in order to try and change the future so that mankind wouldn't go to war with these entities and therefore destroy itself. But again, this is conjecture based upon some of the Mesoamerican traditions, which I've read about. But again, the Mesoamerican traditions are not really my expertise. But I do think that we are dealing with a holographic culture, and that has implications in terms of that they are interdimensional. And so their culture is very different from our own culture, which is based upon a linear time constraints.
Okay, let's move on here. Greco is asking, follow up, what do the old texts say about raising the dead?
Yeah, I think that this is interesting because the dead are equated with the spiritual realm, which is the realm of imagination. This is the imaginal realm, which is the implicated order, and therefore, and the implicated order is then explicated or is particularized. So there's a distinction between the universal realm of ideas, which is the imaginal realm or the spiritual realm, and how that realm then is manifested in physical reality. Now, the whole idea of the initiate was to remember was to facilitate remembrance, because in the Greek mystery and Gnostic traditions, death is synonymous with ignorance, and therefore, in order not to be ignorant, and in order therefore to live and therefore not to die, one has to facilitate remembrance. This can be done through certain rituals, or it can be done through talisman, because the talisman is used to help facilitate remembrance, which is to help to facilitate rebirth, which is the remembrance of the soul pattern. Now, it was believed that if one could remember the soul pattern through, again, this would be controlling the ulterior reality, which are the dream states, which is the imaginal realm. So if you can control the dream state, then you can control the imaginal realm, which is the spiritual realm, which is basically in preparation for death. Because if you are unable to control the dream state, then when you die, then you enter into a state of forgetfulness, because you're in the imaginal realm of ideas. You are swamped, if you like, by different ideas. In the same way that when you go to sleep at night time, your dreams, you forget who you are and you enter this dream state. And so it's therefore important to try and facilitate remembrance within the dream. And by controlling one's dream states and being able to dream lucidly, then you can control physical reality, and by implication control one's incarnation.
We've got just under 3 minutes left with you, and Tristan is asking, can you explain the symbolism of spinning wheels you speak of?
Yeah, okay. Basically, the word ophanim, which is the wheels, is equated with pana, to turn, and ophir, which is the old Semitic root for gold. So these were golden spinning wheels. Now, the wheel is traditionally equated with the chariot. So therefore, in the ancient world, when you see symbols of the chariot in heaven, it's used primarily to denote the spinning wheel. The spinning wheel is equated with the ophanim wheels, which are these flying saucers or vessels. In contrast to the spinning wheel, you also have the shield, which is identified with ship symbolism. So there's a correspondence between Opelon, a shield, and Pleon, which is a boat. And the two devices is used primarily within the ancient world to represent a flying saucer, particularly to represent the angels, which are identified with this naval retinue, or this naval host, which are deemed to be this invading host, this invading army. So that's the symbolism of the wheel, but it does intersect also with the symbology of the cog, and the cog therefore interconnects with the idea of the tooth and the planting of teeth, which is the planting of the human race. But the Arabic word nab, which is a tusk, is correlated with nabi, which is a prophet. The tusk was used as a writing implement to contain ink. But the tooth is also concordant with, as we said before, the tooth of a wheel, which is used to denote the ophanim wheels, which can be represented as a boss of a shield, which is the spike on a shield, which is identified with the aegis and the host, or the angels and their flying shields. As we said earlier in the program, we said there was a connection between the Jinn, Janna to hide or to conceal, Junna a shield, and Jen a serpent or worm, which is denotational of the seraphic host. So yeah, I mean that's essentially it. But again, the chariots can also be represented as the thrones, and the thrones are these flying thrones, which again is really another representation of the wheel. It's connoting the chariot, which is the wheel, the spinning wheel.
All right, my friend. Well, I want to just say thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Let everybody know where they can find your books.
Okay, yeah, it can be found at Pierre Sabak Books. There you can buy Holographic Culture, which is a deconstruction of the Scaphological tradition, which is the symbolism behind angelic boats within the ancient mythology and religion. Also, I wrote the book The Murder of Reality, which looks at the ancient mystery religions and the worship and veneration of the serpent. If anyone's unsure about which book to buy, then probably the most comprehensive book is my most recent book, Holographic Culture, but they're both pretty comprehensive. I would also just like to mention that there are a few authors who I would also like to mention, British authors. There's Philip Kinsella's work. His work is excellent. I definitely recommend that you check out his work. Also, Neil Haig, Orion's Door. That's another interesting book. And Paul Sinclair as well.
Appreciate that, Pierre. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Spaced Out Radio continues after this. Great job tonight, man. Great job.
Thank you.
We'll give you a few claps.
Right.
Thank you so much for doing this. Our audience loved you.
Good. Thank you. Again, I think it's because it's so new and fresh. You know, no one is talking about this because nobody really knew about it before I started to look into words.
Keep it up.
But I mean, it's the basis of religion and mythology, and so it's so important to understand, because if you don't understand Scaphology, then how can you deconstruct what an angel is, what this means in terms of religions? And if you don't understand the astrotheology, it's a missing component to mythology. And I think before there was this black hole within the intellectual landscape, and this is filling in that black hole.
Makes sense. All right, my friend, I got to run get the news ready here, but I want to say thank you for coming on the show, getting up early for us. This was completely awesome, man. Completely awesome.
It was wonderful to interface with your audience, so thank you very much. It's been a real privilege.
All right, take care, my friend.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice dude. Nice dude. Knowledgeable. Very clear, concise speaker, too. Very clear and concise. There. That was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. There was some serious woo in there. Serious woo. I'm tired. Sorry for all the yawning. I'm all of a sudden tired. Reminder to all of you that the lovely and talented Geraldine Orozco has a conference coming up for free on Saturday. This Saturday, the 23rd, 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern. It starts. The Higher Self Expo, featuring Geraldine Orozco, Daniel Winter, Lori Ladd, and Zane Daniel. You go to the website, higherselfexpo.com. You register for free, and they're going to be able to get you on in there. And you're in for a great day of your Zen, your Chi, and some Woo. Hey, it's free. Why not take advantage of it? Go register at higherselfexpo.com today. Thank you to Cat Chaser for being our super chatter of the night. We really do appreciate it. They're awesome, Cat Chaser. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who's given us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and hit that subscribe button tonight. We really do appreciate it. Love the support. Love it. Excuse me. Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you so we can rock out to Bumblefoot, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and much more. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. For the final time tonight, we bring you the SOR Newswire because that's what we do every time of this night. The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes the legendary. Skinwalker Ranch, Bigelow Industries, NIDS, and so much more. You know who we're talking about. Robert Bigelow, yes. A great interview by Mystery Wire's George Knapp, the legend himself, and Las Vegas entrepreneur Robert Bigelow, who announced the creation of a new project called the Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies, which hopes to stimulate new research into the survival of human consciousness beyond death. In this interview, Bigelow shared with Knapp the personal experiences and losses that have prompted his interest in life after death, as well as UFOs. Bigelow went on to say possible connections between consciousness research and the UFO subject, including the risks of trying to establish communication with the unknown. Goes on to say that he has spent more money investigating the UFO mystery than any person in history, literally tens of millions of dollars over 30 years. He not only gave financial support to individual researchers, but also established his own think tank, the National Institute for Discovery Science, or NIDS. During the NIDS era, Bigelow learned about the paranormal hotspot called Skinwalker Ranch, where UFOs, animal mutilations, crypto creatures, poltergeist activity, and other bizarre phenomena were reported with alarming frequency dating back many years. When he bought the property, he installed his own scientific team to investigate various world incidents. The property, of course, known as Skinwalker Ranch. However, Bigelow sold the ranch in 2016 to Brandon Fugel. During his ownership, Bigelow was contacted by scientists employed by the DIA, or the Defense Intelligence Agency. Conversations between the two men eventually led to the creation of a special research funded by the Pentagon called OSAP, which eventually formed into ATIP, which of course led to Luis Elizondo and the boys, who eventually formed the TTSA. Lots to say here. Go to MysteryWire.com you want to hear that interview. It is apparently very, very powerful. For weeks before giving birth, Stephanie Arnold had premonitions that she would die in labor. Her fears came true for 37 seconds, in which she had an out-of-body experience and said she saw dead loved ones. Yes, how freaky is this? The Chicago native said she had premonitions that she was going to die when she hit about 20 weeks into her second pregnancy in 2013. She recounts on the new documentary Surviving Death on Netflix how she and her husband, John, learned that she was pregnant, then had a condition called placenta previa. That's scary stuff. My ex-wife went through that, which causes hemorrhaging. She said, it was so difficult trying to communicate about feelings about this foreboding when I didn't have something tangible to show. She says, I told Jonathan, I do not know what to tell you other than the fact that I've got this intense feeling around that something bad is going to happen. I mean, if you saw me in Starbucks and you said, oh, how's your pregnancy going? I would literally say, I'm going to die. Horrifyingly, her prediction came true. After giving birth to her son Jacob, her heart stopped beating and she was legally dead for 37 seconds. Reliving the moment, she says, they wheel me into the room that I'm going to give life to Jacob and take mine. They put a curtain right in front of my face and prepare me for a C-section. They deliver Jacob. He's happy. He's healthy. Seconds later, I flatlined. Everything came into a 3D movie, and I could actually see outside my body. My point of view was above my body and next to my body, and I could see everything that was going on in the operating room. Inexplicably, she could describe the situation in the room around her lifeless body. I see the anesthesiologist by my feet, she added. I see which nurse jumped on my chest to give me CPR. In this other dimension, spatial relations break. There is no ceiling. There is no walls. Everything is just moving around in so many different directions. She could see her daughter on the other side of the hospital with her grandmother, she continued. And then I see spirits everywhere. My grandmother, who had passed when I was 10 years old. My mother's brother also appeared. The last thing I heard was, Julie, Dr. Levitt saying, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. She felt a pulling in the stomach before she jolted back into her body. Her near-death experience left her in a medically induced coma for 6 days after suffering kidney failure. Stephanie said she had to learn to walk and talk again, and the incident has left a gaping hole in her life. Now, that is scary. You know what? I was 25 years old when my daughter was born, and my ex-wife had placenta previa, and I will tell you this. Surviving that is a miracle. A miracle. And, you know, as much as I talk ill of my ex-wife on here sometimes, I'm still glad she made it. I really am. Because it's a real, real difficult situation to sit in front of your doctor at 25 years old and have him say, you're going to probably have to choose which one makes it and which one doesn't. And I remember my ex-wife saying, choose the baby. Yeah, that's a real thing. I believe this lady, and thank God she made it. Thank God she made it. A New Jersey man recounts his encounter with the infamous Jersey Devil 6 decades after it took place on the new Fox Nation's Monsters Across America. In the episode, Michael Orff recalls traveling down an unpaved road as a South Jersey high school student with his date, a girl named Violet. Suddenly, he remembers Violet spotted something unusual coming towards him. I get chills every time I see it, Orff says, holding a sketch of what he believes to be the Jersey Devil. I hid it away from my children at home when they were little. The backstory of the Jersey Devil is varied as a number of people who claim to have encountered it. For more than 250 years, tales have circulated about the creature from the Pine Barrens, whose origins allegedly can be traced back to the monstrous local birth. Orff, now an educator in New Jersey, recalls rolling down the window of his father's car when he sensed that there was something out in the woods in the pines. I felt cocky and comfortable and being in the Pine Barrens, but I shouldn't have, he said. We heard a rustling, and there was definitely something out in the woods. Suddenly, Violet opened her eyes and mouth wide as she started pointing to the window because there was a hand coming through the window. And that hand was big. It had sharp, almost like a claw, sharp nails coming right at Violet's head. Orf's immediate reaction was to roll the window up, he said. I caught the arm in the window and blood spurted out on her face and on me. I tried to start the car. She was screaming. I got the car started and I tried to put it in what I thought was reverse, but I was actually going forward at the same moment that he had left on the car and picked up his right arm and shattered the windshield. Orf adds that the creature finally tumbled off the car after he put it in reverse, allowing the teenagers a narrow escape from an experience that continues to haunt them more than 6 decades later. Holy cow. Holy cow. That is scary. You imagine that happening? I have a guy in town here. His name's Dave. When he was 18 years old, him and his girlfriend were going to a cabin out at one of the lakes about 40 minutes away from studio here. And he had a Bigfoot come out of the ditch and slap the windshield of his car. Slapped it. Didn't shatter the window, but he slapped it. And then he hammered on his brakes. Girlfriend freaks out. Tucks into where you put your feet in the car, under the dashboard. And he sees in his rear view mirror this creature just walking behind the car and then up the hill on the other side of the road. Oh, it just gives me chills. Ever since Tesla decided to advertise its self-driving feature as autopilot, drivers have gotten into varying degrees of trouble for letting their vehicles take the reins on the highway while they take a nap at the wheel. The obvious danger didn't discourage TikTok star Jonathan Cook, whose over 1 million followers were able to watch him tuck himself into a cozy bed in the back of a Tesla Model 3 while racing down a highway in an infuriatingly dangerous video first spotted by a number of people. It's a reckless and selfish stunt that endangered innocent lives and, thanks to video evidence, could present an open and shut case for local law enforcement who want to throw a book at this youngster. It's even worse. Cook decided to upload a behind-the-scenes video to YouTube in which he outlined how he fooled the vehicle's autopilot feature into registering that he was paying attention to the road. Despite Tesla's flagrantly misleading name for the feature, operators still have to pay attention to the road and keep their hands on the steering wheel, ready to take action at all times. But those safety features can be easily circumvented. Cook used a device attached to the steering wheel to fool the car into thinking his hands were ready to engage. He also had to crawl out of his buckled seatbelt. To be clear, Cook's not the only person to put his own life at risk, but endangered other drivers on the roads. It's probably enough to qualify him as a criminal defense. And he gave the local sheriff all the evidence they need to arrest him by putting it online. We'll see where that goes. What an idiot. Imagine winning a 2020 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. If you've ever driven one, they are fun. Oh, they are fun. I drove a 2016 a few months ago. Amazing cars. Huge power. Well, a Georgia man thought he hit the jackpot when he won $250,000 in a new Corvette in a scratch-off lottery game back in December, but run into a little bit of a roadblock cashing in on his new wheels. Why? Dennis Collar says he purchased a $5 Corvette and cash ticket at a kiosk with his wife was waiting in line for lunch at a fast food restaurant. He hadn't previously played the game but found a $5 bill in his pocket and decided to go for it. Contest promised $250,000 plus enough to buy a fully loaded Stingray and cover the taxes and fees, and he gets to keep the difference if anything is left over from the $107,000 allotment for the car. However, the lottery hadn't secured any cars for the 4 winning tickets that were printed ahead of time, and when Collar reached out to a dealer, the company handling the payout suggested, 5-Star Chevrolet in Warren Robins, it was asking $10,000 over the list price, which was a base price of $59,995. Chevrolet had hoped to build 40,000 Corvettes in 2020, but production was stymied because of Corona and shut down, and a United Auto Workers strike as well. That didn't help. So Collar balked at the markup, which another winner had previously paid. A 5-Star representative said that they had actually lowered the price adjustment from the region's going rate of $25,000 to accommodate the lottery, which hadn't reached out prior to creating the game. Caller, who is a used car dealer himself, said he was disappointed that the Georgia Lottery didn't have any agreements in place before launching the Corvette and Cash game, and has been trying to track down a car on his own at an acceptable price. After he shared his story, a Corvette Facebook group, the post went viral. Of course it did. One dealer reached out offering him to sell him a Stingray that was marked up at $60,000. So far, Culler's only been able to find one at list price, and that's in South Carolina, but he won't be able to take delivery until fall, so he's still weighing all of his options, but he did get the $250,000, so that's pretty good. Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar was not a nice man. We all know about that. Although he did use his dirty money to build houses and community projects in poor areas of his country, he was also directly responsible for hundreds, if not thousands, of murders. Although Escobar has now been dead for almost 2 decades, his legacy does live on in some areas. Yeah, some remnants of his Medellin drug cartel still exist, like buildings he had constructed, but there's another thing he left behind that's starting to cause problems in Colombia. Not talking drugs, guns, or murders, talking hippopotamuses. Yes, Escobar had a penchant for exotic animals, and since he was one of the richest people in the world at the height of his power, bringing in an estimated $70 million per day, he could indulge in his love of strange creatures. His private escape included an entire zoo filled with elephants, antelopes, exotic birds, ostriches, and hippos. But when he died in 1993, no one was left to take over the animals. Most of them were removed to other parts of the world or unfortunately put down, but not the hippos. Officials at the time deemed them too aggressive and difficult in size to move, so they were left to their own devices. The general assumption was that they'd probably soon die off. Instead, the exact opposite has happened. Now there's hordes of hippos threatening Colombia's ecosystem. Yeah, scientists are warning that unless the cocaine hippos are sent to join their previous owner, that there's going to be a bigger problem. They say that the hippos are breeding at an uncontrollable speed, and unless something is done, they'll reach dangerous numbers within the next 20 years. According to the researchers of environmentalists, they say there's somewhere between now 80 and 100 hippos roaming Colombia, all descended from Escobar's 4 beasts. They have spread far and wide from Escobar's old estate and are constantly claiming more ground along the Magdalena River. They have no natural predators, and so the hippos are free to keep making babies, most of whom survive to adulthood. Experts speculate that there could soon be 1,500 hippopotamuses in Colombia. Right now, the authorities don't consider the species a problem, but in the future, when there are 400 to 500 hippos, it could represent a threat to the survival of other species that feed in the same area. Look at that. That is just incredible. Just incredible. Let's send Bigfoot and Dogman down to do a little hippo hunt. What do you think? Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. What UFO conspiracy do you believe will come true? Graham. They're all true. All the true ones, Dave, my good friend. Captain Canada. That Mart L is actually from another planet where he rules totalitarian, like with nothing but Kiss being played on the stereos and the Habs on the telly. Well, it's better than the Leafs. 13 ballads. 1890s sightings of men in bowler hats piloting airships. Space Monkey. We're being used for our eggs and sperm. Speculation, of course. It's a lot easier to manipulate DNA than it is to terraform a planet. I could be horribly wrong, though. Chaos. Denver International Airport will rip itself open and UFOs will come flying out, along with an alien lizard race. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. All right, moving on here. Moving on. Let's see. Cable guy Matt. Reptilians will be running the planet soon. James, that the Nazis were breakaway humans and that they had AI in ancient times. Oh, isn't that nice? Scarlet, man was created to work to tend the earth. God headed out into the universe to carry on. Those left behind to look after the creation found the power in man, took it for themselves, and grew powerful, and then became dark. Eventually, God returns with the forces of light. There's a great war that nearly destroys the solar system. Oh, that's big. That's big. Jim, yes, I agree with the others that many alien species and hybrids have been living with us for a long time. The secret coexistence will increase exponentially. Awesome Annie, this one that starts with, we're here to help. Alex, don't know, but if I know the one, that won't. Whoa, it's, what's he saying here? Oh, that Bigfoot is an alien stupidity by the same type of people. That obviously is not happening either. Somehow I think Alex needs a translator. He speaks too Californian for me. Eric with a K. You know, we are Eric with a K's 4th favorite show, people. We are number 4 on Eric with a K's list. And his thought of the day, that Bigfoot run the secret space program. Barry, absolutely nothing. Gil wants to know more about Area 51. Davey, that aliens only eat breakfast for dinner. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Joe, that the aliens make Dave Scott go to Tim Hortons and buy them donuts. That is truthful. I ate the donuts, though, Joe. I ate the donuts. Kira, hybrid human ETs living amongst Earth. Jack, I've seen more and more evidence of the secret space program. Getting back to these donuts. Joe, I didn't bring donuts for the alien. I did not. Gotta stop putting words in my mouth. Literally, I got a donut for myself and an ice cap, then went to see the aliens. That's what happened. And that's what I'm sticking with. Thank you to everybody participating in the Thought of the Day. We'll do it all again tomorrow. And big thanks to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire, which can be found on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and to our guest tonight, Pierre Sabak, for talking new ufology, ancient symbolism, occult. Yeah, it was a weird one tonight, but man, was it good. We were lucky to have him. Thank you, Corns, for another great booking. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone tuning in our chat rooms on YouTube, LGAP, Revolution Radio, Spreaker, Facebook, Space Travelers Club, and Snarkers and Snarkettes on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. We need a favor. We need you to take us. Yes, the moon train has docked for the night. But tomorrow, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. If you want to bring a friend, yes, we have room for them too. Good night. All right. Now, the funny part about it is we're now going on the air in like 4 different markets right now. I think that's funny. We just get off the air. We're just starting to go on the air. I don't know. I just see humor in that. Maybe it's just me. Just me? I don't know. Probably. Okay, though. That's okay, though. Hey, Super Quest, how you doing, man? Hey, Lunar Tina. Off-World Adam apparently owns his own farts. That's nice. I'll be right back, guys. I gotta go to the bathroom. All right, I'm back. What's happening, people? By the way, thank you, Frapp, Binster, and And Cat Chaser for the awesome super chats. Tomorrow night, remember, you need to be in the chat room tomorrow night. I am giving away a couple of Spaced Out Radio t-shirts tomorrow. So that is in recognition to you guys for our 10,000 subscribers when we pass that. And I'm very happy to be able to do that, guys. So thank you so much. You guys all deserve that. And yeah, it's going to be amazing. So do me a favor. I'm going to give you guys, this is what you're getting. You're getting a t-shirt. You're going to get a free piece of coaxial cable autographed by Cable Guy Matt. I'm going to send you a couple of stickers. And not just that, but I'm going to send you a Spaced Out Radio poster too that is signed by yours truly. So I would appreciate it if you show up in the chat room. We're going to do it after the show tomorrow night. So you got to stick around in the chat room until after the show tomorrow night. And we're going to have some fun with it. Maybe we'll do some trivia. I don't know. But we are going to have some fun tomorrow with it all. And make sure you're in our chat room for it. So that way you got a chance to win. You got to be in there after, once again, after the show ends. Is that cool? You don't mind if I give some stuff away? All right, Bombshell. I will put hearts on yours if you win. I will. Make sure you're here tomorrow in our chat room tomorrow night. Jenny, I did not see your Bigfoot message. I'm sorry. I did not see that. So, for those of you who were here last night, when my internet died, when I was talking about Carrie Cassidy and the bullshit that she is streaming around there, okay, my internet provider, Shaw Cable, decided to do a system upgrade at that time. Very coincidental, I know, okay, but it was my cable company who did a 6-hour service upgrade on their end, and that's what happened. No, I was not taken off by conspiratorial ways, unfortunately, which would be really cool. But that didn't happen. That did not happen. Been really cool if it did happen that way, but it didn't. Oh, where's Corrence, the booking guy here? What's he saying? Tomorrow's Friday, dude. Tomorrow's Friday, Corrence, the booking guy. Yeah, tomorrow night on the show, Ryan Bledsoe will join us. Ryan Bledsoe. Chris Bledsoe's son, talking about the family experiences and everything that goes along with that. Ryan is a great, great kid and a fantastic interview. You do not want to miss tomorrow night's show. What's Corrence, the booking guy, saying here? 1 second, Corrence. Corrence like thought it was Saturday. Tomorrow's Saturday. Tonight was Friday. Unfortunately, Corrence, the booking guy, we got one more. We got one more, man. I know. I know. Final one here. You're a balletzo. You are a balletzo. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. We got Craig Campobasso coming on, I believe, in February. Much is shown today, BF is real. Not sure about that, Jen A. Not sure about that. Not sure. 1 second here. Trying to do. I am not under Chinese control now, Raul. I'm not a Maple Leafs fan. Hey, gorgeous Larry. Good to see you wake up. Looking gorgeous as per usual. I had 4 homemade soft tacos for dinner tonight. Beef, sour cream, salsa, hot sauce. Opened up a brand new bottle today. Accidentally spilled too much into the one burrito. That hurt. 4 of them. Pigged out. I don't know if I should be proud of that, but I did. I'd do it again, too. Just saying. Would totally do it again. Cheese, tomatoes, lettuce. Oh, it was good. It's real good. Not gonna lie, it was really good. I was very proud of them. Very proud of those tacos. They didn't stand a chance. They tried. Put up a good fight. I was having none of it. None of it. Demolished them. Nothing to edit out tonight. I know. I'm pretty happy about that, Cat Chaser. And by the way, I know there's usually a bunch of people who are listening who aren't in the chat room, like there are right now. You have to be in the chat room in order to qualify for the t-shirts. Damn you, DM, going to Taco Tuesdays at Taco Bell. Thank you, Pen Man. I may make it a third t-shirt here. I'm just thinking of an idea. I don't know if we do one for Canada, one for Europe, and one for America, or we just choose blindly. What do you guys think? Hey, Mitz Melt Hill, how are you? Give me 2 seconds here, people. No. Eating a baked potato. Look at you. Hairy tacos is why you can carry a small can of Barbasol and a Bic razor in your back pocket. Shame on you, Fap. You dirty bastard. T-shirt contest? You just got to show up in the chat room, Cat Chaser. You got to show up. That's it. Hey, Commonwealth Andrew, good morning to you. Oh, good idea. DM, you can go get your t-shirts right now by going to facebook.com/the SOR Vault. They're right there waiting for you, waiting for an order. Tomorrow night, we are doing the draw, Cat Chaser. I'm going to do 2 shirts, maybe 3. Oh, I'd be insulted if you didn't wear it to Taco Tuesday. Hey, Milt, it's very much okay. You being here is support enough, my friend. You being here is support enough. You know what? The best kind of support that I can have is for you to share the content on your social media or wherever. Just talk about it with a friend. That's how we gain people, man. That's just as important. So don't think anything different, man. I love it all. I love it all. I take nothing for granted here, man. And I appreciate each and every one of you here. Oh, cool. Thank you. That one's done. That one's done. Okay, done. Excuse me. Well, that's a good idea. Maybe we'll do 4. Remind me of that tomorrow. I did have 3 super chats tonight, and it was awesome. Awesome. Good night, Mitts. I just can't get Bumblefoot. I wouldn't ask Bumblefoot to do that. He probably would, but I got to get a bunch of stuff made up for him first. before I do anything else. Thanks, Babster. I appreciate that. I really do. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give away 2 t-shirts. 2 t-shirts to random people. I know there's a certain crowd that puts in the super chats. I will do, if you put in a super chat tomorrow, I will draw one from the super chatters, and whoever donates $10 to Chive Charities and then shows me that you did, I will choose a t-shirt for them too. Minimum $10. I think that's fair. That's 4 t-shirts. Just remind me tomorrow. Yeah, I'm not really a nice guy. Showtime. Not really a nice guy. Don't let that spread around too far. I first saw Bumblefoot when he played for Guns N' Roses, and I got to meet him in Vancouver through a friend of mine who knew him, and we stayed in touch via Twitter. And then in 2015, when his album came out, Little Brother Is Watching, I heard the song, a few of the songs on there, and I was like, oh, hell yeah. And I approached him to see if I could use one of his songs, and he was like, sure. And we came to a deal, and we sound amazing because of it. It's all because of him. That's the truth. That is the truth. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binaries, I am tired here. So I am going to go off to bed because I had a busy day today, including spending an hour in the post office with the slowest yet nicest lady ever. So I'm going to go to bed. I got to work in the morning. And I will chat with you tomorrow night. Ryan Bledsoe is our guest once again. Remind everybody, if you're chatting with him on social media, that you got to be in here for the end of the show. End of the show in order to get to the draws for the t-shirts. Okay? Excuse me. But good night, everyone. I'm tired, and I love y'all. We'll talk to you soon, okay? Good night.